Delivered by TriStar Moving.
A lot of people are dogging the Titans because they think Tannehill stinks. But the reality is, if the Titans are going to prove a lot of people wrong, because a lot of people are not going to pick the Titans, it's going to be because of Derrick Henry. And while I am optimistic that Derrick Henry, after a full offseason to recover the foot and a typical offseason working out the way he works out and how he heads off back into the season and has a regular season, will be back on the 2,000-yard pace, I'm nervous he'll never be the same again. And we'll look back to that game against Indianapolis and we'll say what could have been. Had Derrick Henry not gotten hurt in that Colts game, he would have gone to the Hall of Fame. Because he would have led the league in rushing this year. He probably would have rushed for 2,000 yards. And who knows how different the playoffs would have been with a Derrick Henry that was in shape and ready to go.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. From the Hillside Medical Game Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram. WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Caroline Fenton is here today. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how we doing?
Outstanding. I am glad to be here today. I'm glad to see you here today.
Happy to be back. I missed you.
Good, good, good. Ian is here today. How are you, Ian?
What up, what up?
Okay, so I want to start on this. Yesterday afternoon, I was watching basketball, and for what has been an incredible tournament, yesterday's games kind of stunk. But I was watching basketball yesterday, and all of a sudden, I'm just screwing around on Twitter, and I see that Jim Wyatt puts out an article from the owners' meetings, which I totally forgot about. There's been so much drama with the NFL that I have totally forgotten about the owners' meetings, where they're going to decide on changing the overtime rule and if there are any other rules. And the owners' meetings, it's kind of become like the combine, where like every coach and general manager has to answer questions, which I'm sure they're thrilled about because they probably feel like they just answered questions a week ago, and now they have to sit down after free agency and answer a bunch more questions.
Well, that's their job.
Well, and I think the NFL likes that. And they're going to have to answer more questions in a couple of weeks before the draft. So, and then they'll have the draft, so they'll have to answer questions after that. And it's just one big cycle. But today it was the owners' meetings. And so Jim Wyatt had a story that came out from the owners' meetings where he talked to John Robinson. And it was a bunch of just random, run-of-the-mill. We really like this guy. We're glad we added him to the mix. He's a good player. There was a little bit of, I think there was one where they talked about releasing Jackrabbit Jenkins, Roger Saffold, all the other players they released. And it was like, yeah, I told them, that they did a good job playing hard for us. Or something. Like, just so generic. It's like Roger Saffold made the Pro Bowl. Then there's a whole thing about how Julio Jones was a good teammate and tried hard, but he just couldn't stay healthy, so they had to let him go. And that, I think, stood out to a lot of people. But there wasn't really, it was just kind of typical John Robinson coach talk. Then there was a second article that came out from Jim Wyatt that I found to be very, very interesting. And it was about A.J. Brown. And so now we have a second article that has to do with A.J. Brown. And if you read it, John Robinson, and A.J. Brown is not a free agent. A.J. Brown will be a free agent at the end of next season. And if you read the article, it's just John Robinson talking about A.J. being a core player, and A.J. is their guy. And A.J. they want to have here for a long time. And A.J. they think he's great. And then I wake up this morning, and they had the press availability, and there's Mike Vrabel, and he's just talking about how bad he wants A.J. to be on the team and how A.J., he's gotten to know him as a person, and that knowing him as a person and a father is so important to him and why they want A.J. to be the core guy. And I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, is this the same John Robinson and Mike Vrabel that we've been dealing with for the last 6 years? Like, these are the guys who, when you'd ask a question about another player, every time it would be like, well, we'll have to see where it goes. Obviously, football's a tough business, but we really like, hard, tight, and committed, great players. And this was just AJ. Like, I remember when Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill were free agents 2 years ago, and the Titans were oddly non-committal about those guys, more so Tannehill than they were Henry, but still, it was odd. They tagged Derrick Henry. They never talked about wanting to lock him up long-term, be a core guy for a long time, and this, that. But that's what they're saying about AJ. And I'm like, what happened with AJ? What did I miss? Well, apparently the Jets told Rich Cimini, who covers him for ESPN. The Jets told Rich Cimini that they would be keeping an eye on wide receivers like DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, and A.J. Brown. And so I guess that got, Twitter or everybody all worked up about this idea that the Titans could be interested in trading A.J. Brown or whatever because the money for these wide receivers is just skyrocketing. We see Devontae Adams get his money and Tyreek Hill get his money, and obviously A.J. is going to want a lot of money, and he's going to deserve a lot of money, and so, okay. But I'm trying to figure something out here. Is there another reason why the Titans have to go all in on telling everybody publicly how much they care about A.J. Brown? Like, is there another element to this? They didn't go all in. There wasn't a Jim Wyatt article. And I like Jim Wyatt a lot, but let's be real. When Jim Wyatt writes an article on the team website, that is team approved. And I found it odd that the AJ article was separate from everybody else. Ben Jones, Harold Landry, Julio Jones, everybody that was in that. Like, it was all one article. Then AJ had his own article. And then Vrabel up there talking about AJ as a father? Like, Mike Vrabel played for the Patriots. You don't care about these people's personal lives. And even if you do, you separate it because when you cut them, you say, I just love the fact, we're obviously very close. He's a great guy. He means a lot to the organization. He's got a great family. But we had to cut him. They didn't do this for Derrick Henry. They didn't do this for Ryan Tannehill. They certainly didn't do this for Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith. And until asked about it today, they didn't really do it about Jeffrey Simmons. Ben Arthur has a story up at the Tennessean in which they say that they want Jeffrey Simmons to be on the Titans long term. But AJ? Do you find that funky at all? Am I the only person that's sitting here saying, wait a minute? Like, when you take a Patriot organization, which to the chagrin of a lot of Titan fans in the text line, the Titans are a Patriots organization. The Colts, where the owner talks to anybody who will listen, the Colts are a different organization. The Titans are a Patriots organization. And Patriot organizations do not talk at all. They say the bare minimum every time. And they've done that for 6 years. And now here's year number 7. And a year before AJ's contract comes up, the Titans are just, oh my God, we'd love to have AJ. We want AJ to be a Titan. He's what we're about. We drafted him. We developed him. He's a great player. He's a great. Is there something about AJ I'm missing? What do you think of it?
I don't know if it's necessarily AJ specifically or if they're looking at the wide receiver market right now and they're looking at how much money Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, even Christian Kirk are making in these new contracts. And the Titans are looking at it saying, uh-oh, like AJ is going to ask for big-time money. And AJ Brown, of course, has every right to ask for big-time money as the team's franchise wide receiver. But I think the Titans are looking at it like, if we don't give it to AJ Brown, another team is going to. Sure. So the more and more that we can hype up how much we love AJ and how much we intend to sign AJ and how much we want AJ to stay in Nashville, all that does is solidifies the relationship between the organization and between AJ Brown, and to continue to put that into AJ's head. And if they say it to the press, then AJ hears it too. Look, AJ, we want you. We love you here in Nashville.
And
we'll
what do we know about AJ
takes.
Brown?
He loves the media.
He's on Twitter all the time.
He's on Twitter all the time. He listens to the chatter. He tweeted at Derek Mason for what he said on our station.
Yeah, he was literally watching the show on Friday.
Yes. I mean, A.J. Brown listens to the chatter. So if he listens to what Mike Vrabel and John Robinson are saying, oh, we love A.J. Brown so much, then obviously, if the Titans are making A.J. Brown a priority, then A.J. Brown will do the same.
So do you think that this is to butter up A.J.?
Yes, 100%.
I agree. This is what I think about this. I think the Titans know they're going to have to – like the Titans know they're going to have to pay A.J. Brown. They know they're going to have to pay Simmons. I think they look at the two. They know they can't go into next season with one of them unsigned. Because if you go into next season with one of them unsigned, what happens at the end of the year? You can't franchise them both. Mm-hmm. So if you go in with both of them unsigned and you go into the season, you're going to either lose one of them or you're going to get taken to the cleaners probably by both of them. And those are two premium positions where the money's starting to get outrageous. So I think they think like, okay, let's get ahead of it now with AJ, because if we can sign AJ this offseason, we can give him a bonus this year, buy out that kind of first, this last year of this deal so he gets paid, and then spread the money throughout. Now, AJ is going to get paid. Now, I don't know where you pay AJ, because you can't pay him like Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams, because he ain't Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. But he's going to want to be paid like Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. So that's another element of it, too, which is, let's butter AJ up. Because if we can offer AJ a bunch of money right now, and AJ thinks that it's coming from our hearts because we love him so much, then maybe he'll take it as opposed to playing through next year. And we've seen with Phillip Forsberg, Corey Davis. I mean, we've seen that once you get into that free agent year, Freddie Freeman, I mean, it's business. Like, that's what it is it's straight up business. And so I think this is the Titans. They are trying to get a preemptive strike here. I don't think this is about shutting down the trade rumors, though I think that is important to them that they shut those down, because if AJ thinks that you're going to trade him, I don't foresee AJ Brown giving you any type of hometown discount or you convincing AJ, hey, you're going to get a lot of money here in this first year that you're not going to make this season if you take the big deal now. And I think it's advantageous to the Titans to get a deal done with AJ because, I think it's advantageous to the Titans because there's something about A.J. Brown that even though nobody wants to hear it, and I do kind of feel like sometimes I'm the guy who has to say things or bring up scenarios that people don't want to hear, but sometimes that they need to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So there's one of them that's facing A.J. Brown that I think the Titans are trying to get ahead of. And I'm going to share that one next. 615-737-1025. And I will say this. If you are like an adamant diehard Titan and you want to be Rosieland all the time, you're not going to like this. But I think, given his representation, I think it's a possibility. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in on the A.J. Brown stuff. 615-737-1025. But the Titans are all in on A.J. Why? Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. And, of course, we're streaming on the Game Nashville app.
Here they come, turn 4, final lap.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe. Join me for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8, and you can hear some of the big names in racing, like Denny Hamlin.
I always like to undersell and overdeliver.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
It would be amazing to watch a Cup race compete there again.
Kevin Harvick.
I think we learned a lot.
And several others. It's Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan South. It's March and you gotta ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you? We hope you feel lucky because we're handing out luck all month long in Newton. We have great deals in both our sales and service departments. We have deals on the cars, trucks, and SUVs you've been looking for. That's not all. We're gonna give you top dollar for your trade, and we're going to give you a great deal on your next car. Essentially, save you money and make you money at the same time. Thomas Jefferson once said, "I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more of it I have." Well, at Newton, we're here ready to work hard for you. to see if we're lucky enough to earn your business. Your luck can begin at home by starting your deal with Newton FastPass. Don't wait. Find your luck at NewtonNissanSouth.com. See website for details. No shame for the lame disclaim.
Come float at Float Horizon in East Nashville. Come float to relax, recharge, renew. Float to boost your mood and enjoy a pleasant afterglow that lasts for days. Float to escape or meditate. And come float for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week. Experience a 60-minute float session for just $39.50. Go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get your float on today. Lay back and experience the wonders of true relaxation at Float Horizon at 1012 Russell Street in Nashville and floathorizon.com.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
My sweet cheeks feeling squeaky clean when Charmin's rolling behind the scenes. Charmin TP gives me those cheeky clean feels. That ultra strong hype is all for reals. Those TP rolls got me a Charmin clean tooketh. Cheek to cheek feeling oh so shooketh.
Charmin Ultra Strong just cleans better. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
At Mitchell's Mr. Transmission, we also offer free towing with any major repairs. If your vehicle has a breakdown and you should need any type towing, towing is available through Dad's Towing Service. Dad's is a professional towing company in Nashville that provides all types towing and recovery, 24 hours a day.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
You are the guy, AJ. There are certain things you just can't put out in social media because people are going to take it and run with it because no one's in your head. So when you put things out like that, it's up to us to assume what you mean, considering, what happened and how y'all got ousted in the playoffs because the quarterback didn't have a good day. And many are questioning whether he is the guy moving forward. So, hey, I do appreciate that he did at me. I really do. I have no problem with that.
And did it in a respectful way.
And did it in a respectful way, and I appreciate that. I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to stop telling my truth. If he puts out another tweet that is sort of, one of those, it's up for you to interpret it the way you want to, then if I interpret it a certain way, I'm going to say it, There
you go. That was D-Mace last week when the AJ D-Mace respectful drama was unfolding in front of us.
It was respectful drama, yes.
I think Derek has a lot of respect for AJ. I think it's obvious in the tweets with AJ to Derek that he has a lot of respect for Derek, which I appreciate because they're the two greatest franchise wide receivers in the history of the Titans. Now, Oilers, it's different. But in the Titans, it's Derek and AJ. And so now the Titans have spent the weekend, or yesterday and today, telling all of us all in that they want to sign A.J. Brown. It's so un-Titan-like. I've never seen anything like this with John Robinson. It's so un-Titan-like that it's almost more Predator-like than it is Titan-like. I'm just not used to this from the Titans. I'm used to it from the Predators.
To just stroke the ego.
Oh my God! They lined up people. The Predators did to around when Roman Yossi came in for his press conference when he signed his contract. They had people lined up in the doorway to clap as Roman walked through, and I was like, "Yo, that's like how the cheerleaders line up when the players run out for the game.
Shake their pom poms."
It was unbelievable. But so here's John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, and Vrabel talking about the kind of father A.J. Brown is, and
very Mike Tannenbaum to Tannehill-esque.
When did that matter to Mike Vrabel?
I want to go to dinner with A.J. Brown.
When did the personal relationship matter to Mike? It's never mattered to Mike Vrabel.
Whenever Devontae Adams signed that contract.
So I got a theory.
Okay.
I think the Titans are trying to get in front of an A.J. Brown holdout. Now, I don't think A.J. Brown, and I'll give A.J. credit here, I do not think A.J. Brown is all about money. And there are everybody in the NFL cares about money and winning. Floyd said the only two things that players understand, the only way to discipline them, money and playing time. And I think there's an element here where, some guys care more about, the money elements, the non-financial part, like I like living in this city, my family likes it here, we have a good quarterback, we have a chance to compete, that you'll sacrifice some of the monetary issues. And then there's other dudes that are like, I don't give one F, I want the money. You know, the Tyreek Hill, he don't care about winning, he don't care about the quarterback, he wants the guaranteed money. Antonio Brown, he doesn't care about winning, he doesn't care about the quarterback, he doesn't care about how good his team is. He wants guaranteed money. And so I certainly don't think AJ is one of those guys. Though if he wants to be one of those guys, he's within his right to be so. But if AJ Brown were to go to the Titans and say, I want a new contract, or if they were working towards an extension, as Robinson said yesterday in the Jim Wyatt article, which was a standalone article by itself, unlike the other article, which contained every player. If AJ were to say, are we going to do a deal? And you know how these start off, right? Like you ask for the moon and they try to lowball you.
Yeah.
Every single one of these. The holdout is a very real possibility. AJ is scheduled to make in cash this season. AJ Brown is scheduled to make $3.9 million in cash. If AJ Brown were to sign a contract, AJ Brown would probably, in cash this year with a signing bonus, would probably make somewhere in like the $24 million range. So you're talking about a huge difference here in money. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to find me for training camp, like, fine, go ahead and find me, because ultimately when I get a deal done, it's going to outweigh whatever. And so AJ's represented by Jimmy Sexton. And I believe he's represented by Jimmy Sexton. No, he's represented by Torrey Dandy, who is a wide receiver agent. I think it is within A.J. Brown's right to hold out. Because if he were to go out to training camp and get hurt, now all the money he's going to make, that would have an effect on it. And so A.J.'s performed for 3 years. Now, look, last year he was injured. He didn't even have 1,000 yards receiving last year. I think I looked it up today. I think Jacoby Myers of the Patriots had 3 less receiving yards than A.J. Brown did. But through 3 years, A.J. has been outstanding. I mean, he is a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. And so if A.J. were to hold out here on the Titans, it would make sense to me that they get out in front of it and say, no, let's work on a deal. Let's let you know how much we want you to be a member of the Titans, how much we want to sign you an extension, know that we want you badly, know that we don't want you to go somewhere else. Let's get together. Let's work a deal. And that would keep him from holding out, because as much leverage as the Titans have. Let's look at both sides of this. Leverage that the Titans have. Mm-hmm. They can fine AJ every day that he's out of camp, and I think it's like $30,000 a day, so it's not cheap. So they can fine AJ every day that he's out of practice, which is a big one. And secondly, they could, toll the contract eventually if he didn't show up, or they could do all kinds of things. The leverage AJ has is, who are the Tennessee Titans going to throw the ball to on offense if AJ Brown's not there?
Fair question.
Like, how are they going to win any football games if they don't have AJ Brown?
They won't.
Like, there are like 4 guys on this team.
Derrick Henry is how you win those football games.
Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons, AJ Brown. Like, there's just certain dudes that like the Titans can't win without. Mm-hmm. They can gun. Like, honestly, if you told me that somebody had to suffer a season-ending injury and it was AJ Brown or Derrick Henry, have a hard time saying it should be AJ Brown, because that's how valuable I think AJ, when he is healthy, is to this team.
But would you have said that, going into this last season before Derrick Henry got hurt?
I might not have.
It's easy to say that in retrospect, since we know that the Titans can find success without Derrick Henry.
I might not have, but AJ was a big key to a lot of what they did in 2020. Yeah. Derrick was too, no doubt. But I do think, this is just me personally, I do feel like the Titans know that could be a possibility. Because, again, when it's business, everything's on the table. Like, look, the Chiefs just traded Tyreek Hill. Think about this. They had him signed to 1 more year. Tyreek wanted a deal. The Chiefs wanted to do a deal. Davante Adams signed another deal. Once Davante Adams signed that deal, the price for Tyreek went up. The Chiefs didn't want to pay the price for Tyreek that was Davante Adams' price. Miami was willing to pay the price. And so just like that, what seemed to be like a perfect relationship where they were going to give him a bunch of money. He's now shipped off to Miami where he'll never win a football game. Kansas City's going to get some draft picks where they hope to draft some good players, but there's no guarantee they're going to draft another Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill's a big part of what they do because when the business gets involved, everything starts to become on the table. And AJ knows that because AJ has seen other guys when business has gotten involved, how it changes things. And the Titans know that. Now, again, the CBA really makes it hard for people to hold out because of the money that you get fined every day. But I would understand it if AJ didn't report to camp or he did what a lot of people do now, which is called holding in, where you show up but you don't practice, like Deshaun Watson last year. Like he got all of his money, but he didn't do anything. I would totally understand. And I think the Titans are right if they think that publicly supporting AJ and publicly wanting to get a new contract done with AJ would allow them to avoid this possibility. I think the Titans are right to do it. But that was something I was thinking about today, is could this be an attempt, like a preemptive strike, on stopping an A.J. Brown possible holdout? Because A.J.'s got leverage now.
Of course AJ has leverage because you look at the Tyreek Hill and Chiefs deal. I mean, that doesn't make the Chiefs better by any means.
No.
But I do wonder, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be in the same exact position. Same year, he's going to want to get paid as well.
So difference is Simmons has the fifth-year option.
But I do wonder, are other players going to look at this and say, Titans love A.J. Brown so much.
Why not me?
Why not me? Why don't I get the public love? Why aren't they stroking my ego?
I think some of this is personality driven, where it's like Derrick Henry doesn't care what they say.
No.
So why does it matter what you say in the public about Derrick Henry? I mean, the Titans, it was reported by Chris Mortensen, and even though Floyd at the time told me that he didn't believe it, I believe it because I trust Chris Mortensen. The Titans tried to trade Derrick Henry, and you've never heard a sliver of animosity from Derrick Henry about that ever.
No.
Derrick doesn't care. AJ's on Twitter. AJ's, they're just different people. And I think Simmons is different too. It is crazy because you do think that, and when you said that Simmons is going to be up at the same time as AJ, I was like, that's right, except because he was a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. And they're going I saw it today. Option. It's $10 million. They're going to exercise the fifth-year option. And then next year, let's say Simmons has a similar year to that he had last year this year. Simmons' camp is not letting him play on that $10 million. But they'll work out a new deal by that time. So the way the Titans look at it is you get one new big contract every offseason. This year, the big contract is Landry. Next year, the big contract's AJ. The year after that, the big contract is Simmons. But it's all factored in one way or another. 615-737-1025 is your phone number, 615-737-1025. And again, the Titans all in on this A.J. Brown. They want A.J. Brown to know that they are all in on A.J. Brown. Why? Now, there was a rumor surrounding A.J. Brown that, honestly, I didn't even see until it was too late, and I thought it was kind of stupid. Anyway, we'll get to that coming up next. FanDuel Sportsbook, that's my official sportsbook app, and right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a $150 instant bonus guaranteed. That's right. You'll get $150 in bonus site credit, and all you have to do is place your first bet of $5 or more. How you bet the bracket is up to you. You can choose from the money line, the totals, prop bets, and so much more. And I think Duke right now, the way they're shooting the basketball, they are absolutely cooking. Though I'll say this, Villanova, the big injury, but guess what? Don't count out Jay Wright. Join FanDuel now with the promo code JGM, and then you can place your $5 bet to score $150 in bonus site credit guaranteed. That's promo code JGM on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
It's been a busy offseason for the Tennessee Titans.
I think this is a one-year prove-it deal for Austin Hooper.
Big move for the Titans. Robert Woods. He fits what they want to do.
Harold Landry. I think he likes playing here. The Titans keep the cap number small. Landry got exactly what he wanted.
Now the focus shifts to the draft. What needs do the two-tone Blues still have?
Who can contribute right now?
Keep it locked to Nashville's best sports talk.
Talking Titans
on ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free. Plus, a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
Has she seen an engagement ring she really loves? A unique look from a top-notch designer? You won't find it at just any store, but you will at Genesis Diamonds.
At Genesis Diamonds, we work with the most sought-after designers in this country. We are proud to feature lines like Tacori, Baraggio, Kurt Cara, Henry Dawsey, A. Jaffe, Jeff Cooper, Gabriel, and many more.
Since other jewelers can't get these designers, David says beware of knockoffs.
Often stores will result to copying or knocking off a designer ring just to compete with Genesis. And oftentimes you will actually pay the same, if not more, for that fake.
Why risk it? Genesis has the real deal. Unique, handcrafted, cutting-edge designs and award-winning craftsmanship.
So not only will you get the exact product you wish with the brand you trust, but at a price that you can afford.
Get her the ring of her dreams at Genesis Diamonds.
Every girl wants a designer ring. They don't want Joe in the back room to make a copy. They want the real thing.
Continuously voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
ESPN's Teron Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
One, I would say his growth and development since he's gotten here as a person. You know, I've watched the father that he's become in Jersey, and nothing makes me prouder than seeing that. Obviously, he's a fantastic player, but it's the person that I've grown to really care about. And those are the types of guys you want to draft, and then ultimately, you know, have on your football team for as long as you're around, or that I'm around.
There you go, Mike Vrabel. That's the best audio we can get. That's from Jim Wyatt's Twitter. So, spoke today, and in that he was talking about AJ's the kind of guy you want to have around. AJ's this, AJ's that.
Which I don't doubt.
No, I have no problems, no qualms, no beefs, no nothing with A.J. Brown. Now, I need A.J. Brown to be a little bit more healthy, because you sign a guy to that kind of money and they get hurt, it does you no good that you paid that guy. And I know that deep down inside the Titans know that too. But I think the Titans have been doing something where they try to convince themselves something on the front end, and then when it's a problem, they can say, well, but you know, we thought, you know, like they've really started to get in this habit, which is a very dangerous habit. But they win football games. TD texts me. We'll get to your phones in just a second, 615-737-1025. TD, Teron Davenport, says, wrong when I asked about how Mike Vrabel, you know, Mike Vrabel's talking about the kind of father AJ is and stuff like, what? And he said, Mike Vrabel, personal has always mattered to Mike Vrabel. This isn't some conspiracy to keep him from holding out. I don't disagree with the idea that Mike Vrabel has always let the players know that if there's something bothering you, come to me about it. Tell me about it if it's your family, if it's your personal life or whatever. But that's different than Mike Vrabel getting up. Like when Tannehill stunk up the joint, he wasn't up there talking about how great of a husband Tannehill is. Which, from the outside, I don't know, you know, Tannehill's marriage or Tannehill's relationship with his kids. Tannehill seems like a great guy, great dad, great husband, great whatever. But Mike Vrabel doesn't talk about that.
No.
So why is Mike Vrabel talking about that now?
Well, I think we know why.
Well, that's why.
Yes.
But I don't think that Mike Vrabel, like, does Mike Vrabel care about, like, the individual? Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
I don't doubt that in the slightest.
I think he cares about former players, former teammates, you know, things like that. I don't think Mike Vrabel's a bad guy. You know, I mean, look, I have my disagreements with Vrabel, and Vrabel has his thoughts about me, and whatever. But I don't think Mike Vrabel is, like, devoid of – he's not Belichick.
No.
You know, like he's got a heart.
But I don't think that he's getting into his feels when he's at the podium every single day. I don't think he
Right.
gets into the deep conversations about his players and their personal lives every time he talks to the media.
I haven't heard anybody talk about Harold Landry's wife.
No, and I'm sure he's a great husband, father, son, whatever he is to others and the people in his life. I'm sure he's great. And I'm sure the same things about A.J. Brown. And I'm sure that Mike Vrabel means that wholeheartedly. I don't doubt it. But it is puzzling that we don't hear that from Mike Vrabel a lot. He's not necessarily the warm and fuzzy kind of coach.
So there's a rumor that's out there that I guess started all this. Rich Shimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN, like how TD covers the Titans, said the Jets are keeping an eye on DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel, and A.J. Brown.
I'm sure they are.
After Tyreek Hill said that he didn't want to go there. What, am I supposed to really care about that? Like, am I supposed to take, like, who cares?
I mean, of course they are. Those are three really great wide receivers, and the Jets went to upgrade at wide receiver.
What happened to the Jets last week, too?
They totally got bamboozled.
Tyreek Hill didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
And so I think the Jets, you know, the Jets fans are like kind of how we were about tight end, like who the hell's going to play tight end?
Mm-hmm.
How everybody is not but should be about right tackle right now, about who the hell's going to play right tackle. The Jets, whose fans are a lot more critical than Titan fans are, the Jets fans are like, what are you going to do for this kid? Because right now he's got Corey Davis. So he's got Corey Davis. That's it. And you're like, what are you going to do? Oh, you know, we're keeping an eye on Debo Samuel. Good luck getting Debo Samuel. Why don't you ask for Joe Burrow while you're at it? You know, I mean, I think you might have a chance to get. Hey, call up the Bills and see if they'll trade you Stephon Diggs. Maybe, why aren't you looking at him? So when I saw that thing from the Jets,
and also keeping an eye on them. What does that even mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Keeping
was
an
it like?
eye on them. It's not like we're interested in making a proposal to these teams and these players.
Well, I
No.
think that is what that means.
But like keeping an eye on them could mean
We
a lot
want
of things.
people to know without quote unquote tampering. We want people to know that we want.
It's like shopping. What does that mean?
Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Today on the Love of AJ, what do we have in the text line?
Manny from Clarksville texts in and says AJ Brown is the same agent as Mike Williams, who just signed for 3 years, $60 million. Similar players. I think AJ is better, so it will most likely be more than that.
Oh, it'll definitely.
It'll be more than $60 million.
Here's the thing on AJ though, and if the Titans want to get to the negotiating table, like if I'm AJ, I'm going to the negotiating table too, because I look at it like this: what did Adams sign for? Like what? How much money did Devontae Adams get? It was like $27 million a year or something like that.
Is it 120 total?
I know Tyreek Hill's 120 total.
120.
Tyreek Hill is 72.2 guaranteed over 3 years. So whatever 72.2 is divided by 3.
Jeez.
That's what you're probably looking at AJ on a 4-year deal, where AJ will probably start. So you're looking
Devontae
at
Adams is 5 years, 142.
Okay,
So around,
forget about the what that is per season though. Like let's do the 72.2 divided by 3 on Tyreek Hill's $24 million a season.
Okay.
So Tyreek Hill is $24 million. AJ's probably going to want to start at like 24 and a half over the 3-year period, but he'll probably want it for 4 years. If the Titans are offering AJ like 23 or 22, because the Titans know this ain't going to be cheap, I'd probably take it if I'm AJ because he gets hurt a lot. And at
But
the
also,
end of the
he
day,
could look at it and say, well, New York's going to offer me 26.
I know, but you're not on New York this year. So if you go out there and you get hurt this year, then what
You're
are you
not
gonna
going
do?
to New York.
And remember, AJ didn't have 1,000 yards last year. AJ was hurt all of last season from training camp. Then he was hurt throughout the year, but he still played.
But does he?
Then he
view it
got
like
hurt.
that?
Then he got put on IR. Then he came back. I mean, he's had the surgeries. Like, AJ knows he's been hurt. And AJ knows people think that because I said it one time while he was standing right there, and he thought it was Gentry Estes, and Gentry Estes, like, he stared down Gentry Estes, thinking that Gentry had said that. Because I was sitting there in the media tent
Poor
talking
Gentry.
to Gentry and
Just
Joe
throwing him under the
Rexrode.
bus.
Well, no, I mean, I would have looked at AJ and been like, yeah, I said it. My thing was, and now we know what AJ would go for in a trade because the Tyreek Hill's out there, and I think that that's a comparable thing. But AJ knows that what I said was, do you give AJ the money or do you trade AJ when his peak value is there and get all the picks and hope that you can draft another AJ and get other players with the AJ pick? Like, what do you do? And I was talking to Gentry and Joe about it at training camp, and AJ and Julio were in the injured group on the other field just jogging. And apparently after I left, AJ thought that Gentry said it because AJ apparently just stared down Gentry Estes.
Like, why does he care?
I mean, because truth hurts.
But I don't think he views it like that.
I'm just telling you, Shannon Sharp said one time that when you get that truth, that's when it gets.
That's when it gets real.
You tell a lie on somebody, it's like that guy.
That's
he's
not
just
true.
telling whatever. You hit a little bit of that truth. Truth hurts, and I think for AJ knows he gets hurt too often, but everybody has excuses. Oh, I won't get hurt this year or whatever. Adam is in Portland. He's up next. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I feel like you eventually got to pay him. I would not want to trade him. He's still very young and part of an elite group of receivers. And I say the same thing. I'm the one Titans fan standing there going, he's hurt again. I do the same thing with Lawan. I'm like, how are you hurt every game? And, I kind of got in trouble for that. It's the same thing. But I'd say he's a foundation of your offense. What I think sucks is that he's pretty immature still. And I think you kind of see that a little bit with the Derek Mason thing. It seemed immature to me. Maybe you don't think so, but I feel like that's why he comes out publicly and he's like, we love you, because he got to say that because the guy's immature and he needs to hear it. So I don't know. I say pay him, though.
Thank you, Adam. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't know if it's necessarily immaturity, but I think it's just different personalities. And there are a lot of players in the league that need kind of that pat on the back to say, no, we want you.
Yeah,
we want you.
Can't coach guys the same because everybody's different.
It's a different personality. I don't think it's necessarily immaturity.
And wide receiver is a position where, those guys, it's a different personality. Wide receiver.
It's a big ego position.
It is. And I think part of it is because you have to get open on every play, and they may not throw you the ball. So, every play you have to go up against somebody. You have to beat that guy on every play, and they may not throw you the ball. And so you could get open 15 times a game, and they throw you one ball, and everybody's judging you off the one ball. So then you got to demand other footballs. You got to demand attention. You got to demand respect. And I've noticed that about the receiver position. I think AJ's got a good temperament to him. AJ doesn't get personal fouls. AJ certainly does not get in trouble off the field. But yeah, AJ's on Twitter. Okay. Taylor Lewan's got a podcast. Okay.
A lot of players are on Twitter.
Right.
I think we need to get out of this mindset, almost like an antiquated mindset that being on social media equals bad.
Right. Having this, saying things on social media. If AJ starts doing the Kyler Murray thing on social media,
that's different.
That's too far for me. I cannot handle that. But so far, I think I feel okay about it. 615-737-1025. Apparently, the text line's exploded, so we'll get back into your phones on this coming up. 615-737-1025. Again, the Titans all in on retaining A.J. Brown. Why? When they're never like this with anybody else. Not even Derrick Henry. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to check out Nashville's best deals. This week's deal of the week is Float Horizon in East Nashville.
Horizon?
I think it's Horizon, but I don't think it's spelled like Horizon.
So, probably Horizon.
I'm guessing it's Horizon. Float Horizon in East Nashville, located at 1012 Russell Street. Get half off a 60-minute float session for $39.50. Why float? Float to recharge your mind and body, distress, relieve pain, better sleep, and more. For the ultimate experience, combine your float session with a therapeutic, relaxing massage or full-spectrum infrared sauna. Float Horizon is at 1012 Russell Street in East Nashville, or visit them online at floathorizon.com. Get this deal now at theGameNashville.com/deals.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Partly to mostly cloudy skies will continue for us for the rest of the afternoon. High temperature only 56 degrees. We're warmer on Tuesday and Wednesday.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
The 2022 Major League Soccer season is officially here, and Nashville SC's new home, Geodis Park, is nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Secure your season tickets now. Come on and grab a seat at NashvilleSC.com/22ticks.
Hey everybody, it's me, Chase McCabe, and I'm so excited to be talking about my go-to drink when I'm out and about, Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Screwball is the first and most awarded peanut butter whiskey in the world. It's an original, just like me, the suit. I take Screwball as a shot, but it's great on the rocks, in an old-fashioned, an espresso martini, and many more. So next time you're out and about, ask for Screwball peanut butter whiskey. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2022, Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as 2 weeks from now with no cost to you and zero hassle. Mike and Joan in Brentwood called Loan Pronto and they did a Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi. They got a check for $100,000. They used $50,000 to pay off all of their credit cards and a car loan. Use the other $50K to upgrade their master bath and kitchen. They locked in a new APR in the 2s and lowered their total monthly bills by hundreds of dollars. Hello? What are you waiting on? Call Loan Pronto now and convert your home value into cash. Put that money to good use. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
When Smashville wants to rock. Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz. Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
And when the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you win a pair of tickets to a future Preds home game. Your next chance to participate is tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. So the Titans website at the owners' meetings at the NFL has 2 stories. Now there's more because they got the hot topics from Mike Vrabel, which we'll get into. But they got the hot topics from Mike Vrabel. But yesterday there were 2 John Robinson stories where John Robinson talked to Jim Wyatt of the team's website. The first one was about everybody else. It talked about Austin Hooper. It talked about Jeff Swaim. It talked about Harold Landry. It talked about Ben Jones. It talked about Julio Jones. It talked about Roger Saffold. It talked about Jack Rabbit Jenkins. It talked about even Darrington Evans over there. The second Jim Wyatt article was all about A.J. Brown. And so Jim Wyatt writes, quote, Titans general manager John Robinson said from the NFL owners' meetings on Sunday he hopes to keep Brown with the team for many years to come. Brown's rookie contract expires after the 2022 season. He said, right now, quote, right now, this is Robinson, quote, right now we are just trying to get through this free agency period, seeing where we've landed cap-wise. AJ is an important part of what we do. He's a great teammate. He works hard. He's about what we're about. AJ is a Titan, and we want to keep AJ a Titan, and that's part of our goal this offseason or whenever that manifests itself to come to an agreement to keeping him around. Like, that is the most definitive I have ever heard John Robinson about a guy, like, working out a contract. And so I didn't know when I read this at the time, but Rich Samini, ESPN, covers the Jets, said that the Jets are interested in A.J. Brown. Quote, we get calls about players all the time. That's what GMs do, Robinson said. Quote, I haven't received any of those calls about A.J., and if they do call, our intention is A.J., we're going to keep him in Nashville. He's an important part of our offense. I think that's a message to A.J. to let A.J. know that, look, people are going to call us A.J., but you're our guy. Mm-hmm. But, you know, he said we have every intention. Not, we will, under no circumstances, trade A.J. Brown.
Right.
Which no general manager would ever pin themselves in the corner of that doing. Let's go to your phone, 615-737-1025, unless you have a thought on that element of
To the phones.
What do we have?
Andrew texts in and says, I don't want A.J. Brown back. You can see he cares nothing but the money and attention. You don't play a wide receiver with a 40% drop rate when he gets 950 yards a year, wide receiver one money, and continue to win.
Oh, Titans don't have a choice. The Titans don't have a choice.
Who else?
See, here's the difference between the Titans and the Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't want to trade Tyreek Hill, but they did because Tyreek wanted too much money, and Tyreek's getting old, and Tyreek off the field can be a little bit of a liability. And the truth is, if you do the things that Tyreek Hill did, and since we've heard the audio of Tyreek Hill, we know that Tyreek does them. When you do those things, you're not a good person. And so I think Kansas City looked at a $72 million commitment over the next 3 years, which is what Miami gave Tyreek Hill. And I think Miami had a totally different reason for giving Tyreek Hill the money. And I don't even think it's about winning football games. It's about trying to act like you're trying to win football games. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but the owner of the Dolphins needs people to think that he's as committed as you can be to winning football games. So that's why I think this deal ended up happening. But you go back to that $72 million, they don't trust Tyreek Hill to be able to fulfill his duties for the $72 million, whether it's his age or the off-the-field stuff or the combination of both. With AJ, I think there are serious questions about his health, and there are serious questions about his drops. But I think the Titans are so afraid that they can't find another AJ that they're kind of willing to roll out the red carpet for somebody that if they played in another organization where they did consistently replenish wide receivers would not have the same approach. That's just my belief.
Yeah, and it's just a delicate balance there.
I think the Titans are pretty transparent with some of the things that they do or the things they say or why they say them or why they feel the way they feel. But after what
you think they're transparent?
Oh, yeah. Like, I think this whole AJ thing is totally transparent to me.
It's transparent to you, but I don't think it's transparent to everyone.
Well, I don't think it's transparent to everyone, but you also have to remember, like, one time, a buddy of mine, his dad owns a local furniture store here in town, Sprint's Furniture.
Yeah.
And this was when we were in high school. And we were talking about the difference between a king-size bed and a California king, and my buddy's dad, Mr. Sprints, in the Sprints commercials was like, oh, yeah, California king is this size, knew the exact, the diameters and everything. And I remember saying, like, how do you know this stuff?
It's his business.
It's like, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And so now when, like, we talk about something like this, I'm like, this is, like, I know when the Titans talk, like, I may be a little bit more skeptical sometimes than everybody else. But, like, for the most part, I have a pretty good idea of why things are why they are. And if I don't know why something is for a fact, then I present the options as to why it is. And I feel like there's several things that are at play here. But I think it's pretty transparent to me that the Titans don't want to let AJ go because if they were to keep AJ and AJ were to get hurt, then they could say, I mean, AJ got hurt, what we were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't keep AJ and then they don't get another AJ, then it's like, what the hell did you do letting A.J. Brown go?
And A.J. Brown continues to light it up wherever he does go.
I mean, think about how pissed off everybody is about Jonnu Smith, and Jonnu Smith didn't do anything for the Patriots last year. I mean, he didn't do anything for New England last year.
And he didn't do as much for the Titans as A.J. Brown has.
He didn't have 500 yards in a season for the Titans. Mm-hmm. And yet everybody in the text, I thought Tannehill's fault. They should have kept Jonnu Smith. I mean, like that. And so I think the Titans, and I don't know why, but I think they care a little too much about what everybody says. I just get that vibe. And I know this sounds crazy, but like when Robinson was first here and these weren't his picks, so he could just cut a guy because it wasn't his pick. Mm. You know, Jeremiah Potassi was taken in the third round in 2015, and he didn't even make the team in 2016. Dorial Green-Beckham was taken in the second round, and they traded him at the beginning of training camp. Like, they just got him out the door. But because those weren't his players, it's like he can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. Same with Marcus, right? Like, they just moved on from Marcus, benched him, put in Tannehill. They didn't draft Marcus. I think because now they're his picks, I think there's a level of pride.
It's ownership.
That he feels,
these are the guys that I brought in.
And he doesn't want the spotlight shifted on him as to people saying, like, and they're trying that with the Julio thing, where if you read in the other Jim Wyatt article, you know, John Robinson talks about how Julio's a great teammate, and Julio tried to get on the field, but Julio couldn't get on the field, and Julio, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's like, that is the approach of, I mean, we tried. And I don't like the we tried because I just don't – I think everybody tries in the NFL.
It's
but
more
you
so
can't.
covering up your own reputation, covering your own
It's,
butt.
Don't be mad at me because I tried. And, like, that's not how the NFL works. And they know that's not how the NFL works, but they still play that, kind of excuse card from time to time. What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, if the Titans have proven to be capable at drafting good wide receivers, then trading AJ could be a possibility. But the Titans have struggled for a long time to find someone who can ball out like AJ, and they need to keep him.
That same thing with Philip Forsberg and the Predators. But doesn't that, depress you a little bit?
It is kind of sad that, okay, now they got to make this their number one priority because they're not good at finding/developing wide receivers.
I was thinking about this with the Florida Athletic Department, and this is a random comparison here. But have you thought about the Florida Athletic Department, and how bad they've been at hiring coaches lately? Think about this, right? So everybody knows football, but let's take basketball too.
Uh-huh.
So Scott Strickland was at Mississippi State. He had Dan Mullen there.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Florida. His first, big hire is Billy Donovan leaves, and he hires Mike White to be the coach. Well, that didn't work out very well.
No, it did not.
So now they just hired the San Francisco basketball coach. We'll see. He fired the women's coach, Amanda Butler. He hired Cam Neubauer from Belmont to be the head coach there. And, look, I knew Cam when he was at Belmont. Cam worked at Louisville. When I was leaving, Cam was coming in. I always liked Cam. But there were, stories about how Cam was, essentially, and again, I like Cam. But just read the stories about Cam that were written by the, people that cover Florida. It was a bad look. So he's going to go hire another coach there. Well, I think he fired McElwain. I don't know if he hired McElwain, but he fired McElwain. And then he hired Dan Mullen.
No.
There was a coach in between.
Muschamp.
No, Muschamp was before McElwain.
Was he?
Yeah. So maybe he fired Muschamp, but in somewhere. So they get rid of McElwain, they bring in Mullen. Well, then now they fired Mullen. And it's dude, how many coaches do you get to hire? At some point, if you're the athletic director at the University of Florida, shouldn't you be able to hire a coach?
Yes.
And so it's if you're the general manager of the Nashville Predators, shouldn't you be able to find a goal-scoring forward? If you're the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, shouldn't you be able to draft wide receivers?
And if you were able to draft wide receivers, then you wouldn't be in this mess.
And it's the fans are just yeah, we don't draft wide receivers very well. So, well, go find them. You drafted AJ, go find another receiver. But I agree with the callers and the texters that don't have any faith in the Titans going out and finding another wide receiver. I guarantee it, that in Kansas City, they think they'll go find another Tyreek Hill. Guaranteed. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. From the owners' meetings, John Robinson did touch on other topics than A.J. Brown. Some of them I agree with, make a lot of sense. Some of them, they seem very interesting. We'll get to those next. Stillman & Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee! 3-ball, yes, sir!
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown!
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at ParmanTractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Looking to score with a Delta 8? Meet your new one-stop shop for anything and everything Delta 8. D8 Superstore has Delta 8 vapes, gummies, dabs, flour, and more. Backed by their years of extensive product research and testing, they offer the best prices, selection, and quality on the market. Get free shipping on every order with customer support that responds in minutes. So don't wait. Try their Delta 8. Shop with us at d8superstore.com.
This is Luke Morrison, a senior at St. Andrews Sewanee, a boarding and day school in Sewanee, Tennessee, adjacent to the University of the South. At SAS, we learn, live, and play in an atmosphere of trust and high expectations. Learn more about admission at sasweb.org.
Attention veterans of Middle Tennessee. Little Guys Movers wants to put your hard-earned skills and leadership talent to work with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. Be your own boss and build a team with standards as high as your own, and all while serving your community with the same hustle that you served your country. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Start a fulfilling, profitable new chapter of your life as a member of a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Invite you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Jared Stillman.
Football season, and then football season becomes hockey season, and then it becomes draft season, and then it becomes hockey playoff season.
And company.
Maybe this is something to just get people a little bit interested.
It's a matter of not having too many chefs in the kitchen.
Catch Stillman and Company on your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
And I can spot it from a mile away.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So A.J. Brown, we know that's topic number one surrounding the Tennessee Titans, his new contract. Titans say they want to get a deal done with A.J. I think A.J. wants to be here, and I don't want to speak for A.J., and he's got great representation, and he's going to want that money. I think A.J. wants to be here. But then there are other topics. So Jim Wyatt had a sit-down with John Robinson, and again, and I mean this with all due respect, it is on the team's website, so it's, like, what is it, Juicy Juice that says, no, what's the one Kix, the cereal?
Oh, yeah.
Kid tested, mother approved?
Yes.
When it's on the team's website, it's
Titan approved.
It is Titan approved. And some of it is just like the obvious stuff, right? Like, okay, why'd you trade for Robert Woods? Well, he's a good, here you go. Quote, he fits a lot of the characteristics and traits we look for on the field. He's an aggressive player, a willing blocker, a good route runner. He's a tough player. He's a smart player. Okay.
Got it.
All things I agree with. All make sense. Sure. Put him on the
Titans
record.
needed another wide receiver. Yeah,
right.
makes sense.
I like the Robert Woods pickup. I do. That's fine. But there's a couple things in here that I found to be, one, inexplicable, and another one that pissed me off. So which one do you want to start with?
Inexplicable.
Okay. Inexplicable. The Titans signed Austin Hooper, right?
Yes.
Okay. And everybody took note of this. Emily Proud tweeted about it. Paul Kaharski tweeted about it. Everybody took note of this line in it because it was an odd line for a general manager to say. And they're talking about Austin Hooper, and Jim Wyatt writes that Robinson said former Browns tight end Austin Hooper, who was a 2-time Pro Bowler with the Falcons, is a player he wishes the team would have taken in the 2016 draft. Quote, I've always been a fan of Austin. I probably should have drafted him back in 16, but you can hindsight any draft when you look back. He's a good player that embodies a lot of the things that we want to live. Okay, all right.
Yeah, GM talk.
So the draft thing, that stood out to everybody, right? Where like everybody's like, what's he talking about? And I find this to be so inexplicable for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Titans 2016 draft. In the first round, Jack Conklin.
Uh-huh.
He's an all-pro who's making $20 million a year as a right tackle. He's better than Austin Hooper. The Browns didn't release Jack Conklin. They released Austin Hooper.
Mm-hmm.
So put Conklin to the side. You definitely would have drafted Austin Hooper over Jack Conklin.
Right.
Derrick Henry in the second round. You wouldn't have drafted Austin Hooper over Derrick Henry.
No.
Now, Kevin Dodd was the first pick of the second round, or the second pick of the first round. He was the 33rd overall pick. The Patriots didn't have a first-round pick that year. That was a bust. But Austin Hooper went like 90th in the draft. So what does he mean? Like, he'd rather take him. Kevin Dodd? What? Austin Johnson was a defensive tackle they took. He was a solid player, just signed for some money with the Chargers. And again, it ain't like Austin Hooper's been lighting up the NFL since he signed his deal in Cleveland. And then the other third-round pick the Titans had in that draft was Kevin Byard. So are you telling me that you should have drafted Austin Hooper over Kevin Byard? Because the Titans did not have another pick between Byard and Hooper. So, you know what I think because I told you.
Yes.
But I think every fan looked at that like, oh, yeah, they should have just drafted Henry in Dodd's spot and Byard in Henry's spot and then drafted Hooper in Byard's spot, which you literally can do with any discussion you ever have.
Or he was saying it like, yeah, we should have drafted him.
We should have
without
drafted him.
thinking about, okay, let's see who we actually drafted and where he was actually taken and who was available. He wasn't thinking about that.
I don't think that's it. I think that the Titans decided not to draft Austin Hooper. And I think it's a crack at somebody, whoever was there at the time. And remember, when he took over, he still had Rustin Webster's staff. That was the scouting staff and everything else until after the draft. And then you get your own staff in there. Remember, it was a different coaching staff. And we know that the relationship between Robinson and that coaching staff, other than Arthur Smith, not totally eye to eye. I think that was a crack at somebody in either the former coaching staff or the former administrative staff. I think it was one of those ones where maybe he liked Austin Hooper, but whoever else was in the room didn't like Austin Hooper. And so Robinson, a first-year general manager, was like, I kind of like him, but they don't like him. And we've all been there with everything we do in our lives.
Yeah.
And so Robinson saying publicly, I wished I had drafted him in 2016 because he knew it would get everybody's attention when he said it. And it's a message for somebody. I don't know who the somebody is. I have a good idea of who I think the somebody is, but I don't know who the somebody is.
But I did wonder if the somebody was Austin Hooper.
No.
To say, we should have drafted you in 2016, but we're so glad to have you now. I mean, they pumped A.J. Brown's ego.
But
you don't think they're going to pump Austin Hooper's ego as well?
Could he have said that to Austin Hooper?
Yes, but don't you think saying it to the media makes it even more real? To say, look, we're so excited about Austin Hooper.
Maybe.
Bringing him in and...
Maybe, but I felt like that was a targeted crack at somebody. I don't know who it was. Again, I have an idea of who it was. I don't know who it was. But, and you also know that I probably know a little bit more about the situation than even I'm letting on right now.
Yes.
But it felt like a target, because if not, it
was targeted towards somebody. There's an ulterior motive there somewhere.
Because if it's not, then it's just inexplicably stupid to sit there and say, I should have drafted him. Who else did you draft? Kevin Byard. What? Like, wait a minute. What? So you're saying you should have drafted him. You drafted Kevin Byard. Yeah. What?
Kevin Byard looking at that and saying, what the heck?
Who was the pick before Kevin Byard?
Derrick Henry.
Oh, what? So, what the hell are you talking about? So you shouldn't have drafted Kevin Dodd. No crap. We all know that. By the way, have you seen who was around Kevin Dodd? In that draft?
No.
Oh my God, it's wild. I've never looked at this before. And I also, you can always look back. And John Robinson is right in the quote when he says you can always look back at a draft in hindsight. Kevin Dodd, this is the beginning of the second round in 2016. Emmanuel Ogbah went with the first pick to Cleveland. Kevin Dodd, Jalen Smith to Dallas, Hunter Henry to the Chargers, Miles Jack to the Jags, Chris Jones to the Chiefs, Xavier Howard to the Dolphins. So there's a lot of people you should have drafted in 2016 before you drafted Kevin Dodd. But don't be telling me it's Austin Hooper at 1 year, $6 million.
See, that's why I think he's saying, we should have drafted him. Austin Hooper, we wanted him in 2016. That was my mistake, but we got him now.
Inexplicable comment from Robinson. It literally, unless you think he's taking a crack at somebody, it doesn't make sense for him to say that. And he's never said that before about anybody else.
Because then again, to super feel welcome. You could just say, we're so excited
Yeah, we
to have him
remember
on
when
this
you
team.
came in and we loved you and whatever.
Yeah.
So then, a lot of the other things like, he talks about these special team guys they added. Who cares? Then got to Julio. Now, I love this line from Jim Wyatt in here because the way it was written, because it says, Robinson said he wished the players the team released, guard Roger Saffold, tackle Kendall Lamb, running back Darrington Evans, cornerback Jackrabbit Jenkins, and Julio Jones well in the future. Saffold, who spent the past 3 seasons with the Titans, has already signed with the Bills. And I figured we'd get hey, Roger was a great player for us. He was a great leader for us. Here you go. Quote, I certainly thank them for what they did for our team and for buying into what we are about as a team. The end.
Okay.
That's like when
the
someone
most
gets
generic
fired.
thing ever.
That's like when someone gets fired and it says at the bottom, we wish them well in the future. So then Julio Jones gets like 3 paragraphs. It certainly was not a lack of effort on his part. He tried his best to get out there, but he was battling it all year long. At the end of the day, and it's on our wall in the training room, availability is as important as ability. And unfortunately for him, no fault of anybody, he just wasn't available for us for as much as we would have liked him to have been. And certainly as much as we would have liked for him to have been. He was a great teammate. He worked hard. He is a pro. He handles his business. I can't say enough good things about him and how he worked in our time with us. 2 things there. Number 1. The first thing is, this is the classic Titans excuse now, and I'm getting sick of it, which is who knew Julio's hamstring was going to be a problem?
We didn't know he was going to be injured.
I don't know. Everybody, including us on this show, knew it. Okay, that's the first thing. Which that one, when I say one thing I thought was inexplicably stupid, that was the Hooper comment. This is the one that just gets up my ass, yeah. And then the second thing was it's on our wall that availability is as important as ability.
Then why do you keep drafting injured players?
You just traded for a wide receiver with a torn ACL. Like, do you realize how stupid that sounds when you say that? Like,
my gosh.
It's just so...
And your last first-round pick had his spine surgically restructured.
I read this stuff, like some of this stuff in here that I read, like, it's like... And I like Robinson. I do, and I don't know how Robinson feels about me. We have a very interesting dynamic. But, and I think he's a good general manager, and I've always brought up the winning and everything else. But it's like sometimes I think he thinks we're all stupid. Like sometimes he's going to sit there and say, hey, through no fault of anybody, Julio was hurt. No. Your fault.
It wasn't their fault.
It was their fault.
Wasn't their fault that Julio was hurt. It
was
their fault that they brought in Julio
was on the team,
knowing he was hurt.
And that they gave up a second-round pick for him, and that they paid him all the money. It's your fault. But the thing that gets me is that, it just didn't work out, so we just tell people that availability is important as ability. And
which is
you
true.
Just traded for his replacement who's got a torn ACL.
But also torn ACL, that happens.
Different. It is different.
It's different than Julio being 1,000,000 years old with a torn hamstring.
But don't say it today.
Don't say it today. Because that didn't change.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think we're stupid? Like, do you think we read that line and just say, oh, well, Julio just couldn't stay healthy, so that's why I decided to move on Julio. I mean, I don't tell you
And a lot of people may read that and say, yep, that's a bummer. That's a shame that Julio couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't stay healthy before he was in Nashville.
It's unbelievable. I read this. I'm like, John. And it's team approved. Like that, oh, John. Oh, it gets me. And I love John Robinson. I do. Good guy. But, seriously, like those 3 things in there, like he's taking a crack at someone on the Hooper thing. I don't know who. He's, the Julio thing. You know what's crazy? I got a thought on this, and then we'll get to your phones. 615-737-1025. But I do think it is an interesting dynamic that I want to get to. And we'll do that coming up next. First, Caroline wants to tell you about the Caesars Sportsbook app.
Yes, I do. It is time for the first Caesars Sportsbook report of the week. So the plot is thickening in the NCAA tournament. We've got our Final Four. So Caesars Sportsbook has released a brand new offer for their new users. Just download the Caesars Sportsbook app and get started with up to $1,100 in first bet insurance. Sign up with promo code RADIOCZR. That's one word, RADIOCZR. Place your first bet on the NCAA tournament, on hockey, on NBA, on NFL futures. You name it, you can put money on the Caesars Sportsbook app. But we've got a Final Four to get into. Now, the best odds going into the NCAA tournament to win it all, Gonzaga was the favorite. They were at plus 450. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen. But now, the new team with the best odds, Duke, with the best odds at plus 150 on the Caesars Sportsbook app. But if I'm going to put money on anyone just based off of momentum and based off of odds, I'm going to put money on Villanova to win it all at plus 450. Really good odds, and Villanova has looked very, very good as of late. But that's my opinion. Put money on what you want to put on, and do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New users only. Bet amount of qualifying wager returned only if wager is settled as a loss. Paid as a single bet credit. Must be used within 14 days. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
Tune in every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. for Nashville's own Jason Fitz with Jared Stillman and company. Fitz started his sports talk career right here on 102.5 The Game, and now he anchors shows for ESPN. Jason Fitz is brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood. Give local. Give life.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Hey, what's going on? Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, is it true that according to the American Dental Association, roughly 80% of people in the U.S. have some form of gum disease?
That's right, but our non-surgical periodontal therapy is painless and effective in keeping your mouth healthy. And the mouth is the window to the health of the rest of the body.
I know you have some different things that you offer. What else can you tell us?
Well, first, who doesn't want whiter teeth? Our new Zoom LED whitening system is less sensitive, and you get more than 5 shades of whitening. And we just upgraded both our lasers to kill bacteria during your cleaning.
What about taking care of cold sores some people may have, which can become painful? Can lasers help with that too?
Yes, the gentle laser setting will kill the virus in your cold sores all naturally while reducing the healing time by half. And our special soft tissue wand uses warm, light laser therapy to give instant relief to severe TMJ pain. Our approach to holistic dentistry is unique.
Give Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine a call today at 615-373-4488 or visit kellyerice.com. You'll certainly be glad you did.
All the games are crazy in March, and so are Social Furniture's prices. Shop today at Social Furniture during their end of March sale. You'll find all sofas and sectionals for your home on sale now with same-day delivery. Social Furniture's end of March sale going on now. Enjoy your new sofas and sectionals now with no waiting and same-day delivery. Visit Social Furniture today in West Nashville at 5412 Charlotte Avenue. Forget the big box store. Support local. Support social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Since their doors opened in 1898 in England, Arkansas, Bank of England Mortgage has been providing down-home exceptional service. Bank of England's success is due to the talent of their loan officers and their access to hundreds of mortgage products at the industry's best pricing. Bank of England Mortgage has 3 Middle Tennessee locations ready to serve you. Go to BOE1214.com or call 615-823-1215. Bank of England Mortgage is a division of Bank of England Mortgage. Equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS 418-481.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Stillman and Company, again, the owners' meetings are going on in the NFL. The overtime rule, by the way, is one that's interesting that we haven't really talked much about, but I guess they're going to try to sort through that, and there's momentum growing, and it's kind of like something in Congress where they want to know what the result is before they vote on it. But I have got to get to this as we're talking about John Robinson. This was the question that I was going to ask there on the other side, which was, in the Jim Wyatt article at the Titans website, he was asked about Julio Jones, and John went all in on letting everybody know that it is not Julio Jones's fault that it didn't work out for him as a Titan. So they invested a boatload of money in him. They invested a second-round pick in him, and he had one good game and played okay in the playoffs. And then they cut him. They designated him as a June 1st cut, so they save a little money. And then they went and traded for Robert Woods. And I actually do like that move. So let me state for the record that I like Robert Woods over Julio Jones. Totally for that. But here you go. Which, again, is the quote about Julio Jones. Quote, "It certainly was not a lack of effort on his part," talking about why it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Quote, "He tried his best to get out there, but he was battling it all year long. At the end of the day, and it's on our wall in the training room, availability is just as important as ability. And unfortunately for him, no fault of anybody, he just wasn't available for as much as he would have liked to have been, and certainly as we would have liked him to be. Now, this question I'm going to ask you too. When Robinson looks back at the Julio decision, and we said on May 7th of last year, because we have played that audio, where we looked at it, and this was when the Julio to the Titans was still kind of like a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no. And the one thing that I do hope fans will take into account is that I am willing to go down rabbit holes, and I am willing to believe in pipe dreams at acquiring players. Because if I had told you this time last week that the Miami Dolphins were going to trade for Tyreek Hill, you would have said that was a pipe dream.
Yes.
The Devontae Adams thing, I mean, that was a total pipe dream. And now look at Devontae Adams.
Crazy things happen in the league.
Yeah, and they happen very quickly. But we said, like, no. Look at his age. Look at the money. Look at what they want in return for draft compensation. Look at the hamstring. Those hamstrings don't get better. He's old. He's got a hamstring. No. And then they did it. And then we talked to somebody in the league that told us that the Falcon doctors would not have even passed Julio, that they laughed when the Titans did this and that he was never going to be Julio Jones again. And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, no. But the question that I want to ask you and Ian, you think John Robinson thinks he messed up? Or do you think it is what he is portraying to the public, which is, I mean, we tried, guys. Like, we tried to go out. We thought Julio Jones, even though he was 32 years old, even though he was dealing with hamstring injuries, even though he had a reputation in Atlanta that wasn't great, we thought that Julio Jones was going to come in here and be the Julio Jones of 2016. Or do you think he thinks to himself, why did I get caught up? Why did I get caught up in that? Why did I buy into that? Why? Which one do you think John Robinson internally thinks?
Well, even saying, we tried, isn't that also accepting defeat?
Well, but this is the Titans we're talking about here.
Yeah.
They're the definition of we tried.
But that's also saying, but it didn't work out. That's also kind of accepting defeat. So I think in either situation, either scenario, John Robinson has to know that he made a bad decision.
Right. But the way that the football people couch these decisions are by saying, like, I know
it was
why,
a risk and it didn't pay off.
I know why I made the decision with the information I had at the time, and because of that, you've seen the 30 for 30 on Randy Moss, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Floyd and Randy are tight because they were together in New England, and so you never say anything bad about anybody in New England.
Right.
Floyd is infamous for having drafted Kevin Dyson over Randy Moss.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd's theory was, had Kevin Dyson not gotten hurt in practice in 2000, Kevin Dyson was emerging as a number one receiver. He would have been worth the pick. But
and that
also,
way he can sleep at night knowing that he had good intentions behind it.
Well, but you remember the 30 for 30 on Randy Moss. Remember all the crap he got into?
Yeah.
That's why they didn't draft Randy Moss.
I mean, he bounced from school to school to school.
Like the jail stuff, that's why they didn't draft Randy Moss. So when everybody's like, how could you draft Kevin Dyson over Randy Moss? The reason he made that decision was because Randy Moss was a problem child. And in all fairness, look at Randy's career in Minnesota. He hit a cop with his car. Like, it's not like it was unfounded. But because he and Randy are friends now, or were friends, he was never going to say publicly, like, that's why. But to this day, to the day he died, he believed that it was the right decision to draft Kevin Dyson over Randy Moss. So that's how these football people operate, is they don't get caught up in that didn't work out. They get caught up in did you make the right decision?
At the time.
There was another player that he drafted one time in the second round by the name of Brian Mix. And all the scouts loved him, and all the coaches loved him, and he didn't like him. But it was his first year, I think, as general manager, and he just knew that, everybody around him couldn't be wrong. Like, he had to be right. Like, these guys, not all my scouts can be wrong on one guy. Not all my coaches can be wrong on one guy. So I have to be the guy who's wrong. And he drafted Brian Mix, and, like, right away he knew, like, what was I doing? And so he was more mad at himself about that than he was about the Randy Moss, Kevin Dyson thing. Now, I ask this because, to me, the Julio thing was avoidable from the start. Avoidable. I don't have a problem with the Beasley thing. Like, there were rumors about Vic Beasley and that, he wasn't going to play hard all the time or he might be a little kooky. But we called up the Falcons defensive coordinator from when they went to the Super Bowl, and he had 16 sacks. And he was like, yeah, Beasley's a good kid. Beasley plays hard. Beasley's this. Beasley's that. Floyd was the best man in the guy's wedding, so we felt like he was telling us the truth. So they took a $9 million chance on Beasley, and it didn't work out. And that's going to happen. Just like it might not work out with Robert Woods. But I'm fine with the decision to go get Robert Woods. I was not fine with the decision to get Julio. Do you think Robinson is upset with himself for the decision to get Julio, or do you think he believes that he made the right move still to this day?
I think he has to be upset with himself because the issues that the Titans faced with Julio, the exact reason why they released him, were there from the start.
Ian, do you think that Robinson thinks that he made a mistake that was in his mind that he should have known better? Or do you think it's like, well, you know, we took a chance. Our doctor said this, so we thought it was going to work, and obviously it didn't work.
Oh, they probably think it was probably just wishful thinking, maybe, to get Julio up and rolling. You know? I would think to make the trade, they must have felt like they were, I don't know. I think they must have felt wishful thinking. If it hits, we'll hit a home run. If not, it's worth the risk.
I think they've convinced themselves that they thought this was going to work and that the information we had at the time told us that Julio was going to be back to being Julio. But in reality, I think that they know that they knew better. They knew better. Like, they knew better. And
if we knew better,
we knew better.
They knew better.
We knew better. Like, and that still, like, so when I see these quotes about through no fault of anybody, including him, he's highlighting the including him because he doesn't want you to think including me.
Right.
But they knew better. They knew better than that. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do we have?
One texter texts in and says something very important. Would you trade AJ to the Jets for the number 4 or number 10 pick in the draft? Draft a quarterback you want with the pick and grab a wide receiver with your first pick.
So they're not going to trade me the number 4 pick in this draft. And I don't even know about the top players in the draft enough to know, like, are these tackles from Alabama and NC State, are they so good that if you drafted one of those tackles this year, that you'd put them at right tackle this season and they'd go right to the Pro Bowl like Jack Conklin, and then next year you flip them over to left tackle and you let Taylor Lewan go? If the answer to that's yes, then I probably have to think about it, but it's not going to be for one pick. If you trade A.J. Brown, it's going to be for like 30 picks. You know, it's going to be like the Tyreek Hill trade. But I don't think the Titans think they can go get another AJ, so I don't think they're going to try to get another AJ. 615-737-1025 is our phone number to your phones because I see them lining up, so we'll get to those coming up next. 615-737-1025. And an interesting element as to what might actually happen at the league's ownership meetings and how it does kind of involve the Titans. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Want the latest on the Predators from the people that cover them?
Heck of a year so far for the Predators. They've been so much fun to watch.
Join Robbie Stanley for Preds Insiders every Monday at 6.
I feel probably as good about this group of 6 on D.
Presented by Dr. Kelly Rice on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Realizing Geico has over 85 years of experience saving folks money and providing great customer service is like realizing there's a crumb tray on the bottom of your toaster, and you don't have to keep turning the toaster upside down to clean it.
How long has that been there? Hey, who needs some croutons?
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or realizing that baby carrots are just regular carrots that have been shaved down.
I don't care. They're still cute.
It's something you can't believe you never realized before. Like how Geico's 97% customer satisfaction rating means Geico is committed to providing the best service for their customers. Or how you can peel the top layer of tape off a lint roller and there's a fresh layer underneath.
Marcy, wait till you hear about the lint roller.
You mean how the handle is reusable?
Wait, what?
Trust. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
Most shoppers today fall into one of two categories. You could be like Dave, who settles for nothing but the finest.
I drive only European luxury sedans, wear the finest Italian leather shoes, my shirts are custom made, and I expect white glove service from those I do business with. I appreciate world-class brands, and at this point in my life, I just don't want to compromise on quality, no matter what I buy.
Or you might be like Steve, whose goal is to always get the best deal.
I'm frugal. I'm all about finding value. I want the best price, and I don't mind going out of my way to get it. I work hard for my money, and I just want to make sure when I buy something, I can have confidence in knowing I'm not overpaying for it. Stop being cheap, it's being smart.
You never see these two guys in the same store, except for one.
That's why I shop at Genesis Diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds is that rare shopping experience where you can have it all. Uncompromising luxury and unbeatable value, exceptional service and the guaranteed best price in America, a premium experience and a smart purchase. This is where the best of all worlds come together. Genesis Diamonds, voted best jewelry store year after year. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Joe Rexrode here for FanDuel Sportsbook. Letting you know right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a $150 instant bonus guaranteed. That's right. You get $150 in bonus site credit. All you have to do is place your first bet of $5 or more. We are down to the final four in the NCAA tournament. You want to get into the rest of the bracket, you can choose from money line, totals, prop bets, so much more. I have a feeling, even though Villanova is not as talented as Kansas, I think Villanova gets it done. Maybe Villanova-Duke. You do whatever you want to do. Just know that when you join today with promo code Joe102, you can place your $5 bet and score $150 in bonus site credit guaranteed. That, again, is promo code Joe102 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable site credit. Expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
Wednesday night, it's a Western Conference battle in the NBA.
Torrey inside, great muscle move.
As the Phoenix Suns take on the Golden State Warriors.
Thompson's 5 of 7.
Coverage begins at 8:30
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The Titans don't have $15.3 million.
Especially for a guy that I don't really know how much longer he's going to play.
No. Again, I think Julio played 9 games last year. Like, that's what you're getting yourself into. I mean, I still thought the J.J. Watt contract was stupid, in Arizona, but they're not even that locked into J.J. Julio Jones is old. Julio Jones is injured. Julio Jones is expensive. And if I just said to you, hey, you can get old, injured, and expensive, you would say no. It also makes me uncomfortable saying a 32-year-old is old when I am 31. But here you go.
In NFL years.
9 games for Julio last year. Hamstring injuries. By the way, those are injuries that usually cramp up more when you are older, and they don't always go away. Julio Jones, 9 games last year, 771 yards. So he's on pace for 1,400 yards, or maybe a little bit less than that. On pace probably for about 1,400 yards maybe. 3 touchdowns, 85 yards per game. And that's a team that's terrible. So they're throwing the ball every snap. No. We knew. So the Titans and everybody else in the league, they're at the owners' meetings. The one thing to watch out for in the owners' meetings, they're going to vote for stadium stuff. So the Bills, I think, have like a $1.4 billion deal that they're trying to work out for a new stadium in Buffalo. And it's not an accident. There was an Axios report that came out today from Nate Rao that the state is willing to put up $500 million if they dome the stadium. And I think that's a pretty strategic move by the government. I do think, and I need to talk behind the scenes more to get more of an idea of what that $500 million actual means, because the municipal bonds and stuff like that, I don't know what all that stuff means. But they are going to be, there's apparently a stadium finance committee, and they are going to be meeting at the owners' meetings about the Buffalo Stadium and the New York governor and her role in all of this and everything else. It's very well documented. I think the Titans are probably going to try to get out in front of that. I think so. You will see perhaps there could be some movement there with the Titans in a new stadium and the league stadium finance, because the reason you need the league's help with this is you're able to take out credit against the league the league will give you credit to build a new stadium. So that's going to be an element to keep your eye on. The other one, the overtime rule that the Titans have proposed, which has Vrabel's name all over it, which is each team gets a possession unless the first team scores and goes for two and gets it. And so we'll monitor those. Let's get back to your phone. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do we have in our text line?
Shane from Ashland City texts in and says, do you think Vrabel got what he wanted? I feel like Vrabel didn't necessarily want Julio, but Robinson did.
So the dynamics of John Robinson and his coach are something that I have always found to be a little interesting, that nobody will tell you what's real and what's not. And I have to give them credit because I do appreciate the fact that it doesn't feel like the Titans throw people under the bus. I do know this. Amongst a lot of people who I trust, there is a sense. Now, these are not people inside the organization, but there is a sense that Robinson and Vrabel are not as locked together as they were when Vrabel was hired. Now, Amy Adams Strunk, I think, has made it very clear that by extending them both at the same time, because it could have been really easy to look at the John Robinson draft picks and the Julio Jones and Mike Vrabel Coach of the Year and give Mike Vrabel an extension but not give John Robinson an extension. But Amy Adams Strunk has proven since she took over the franchise that the coach and the GM, are kind of together. Mm-hmm. And I think she really hated that Mike Mularkey drama in 2017. Like, I think she really didn't like being put in that position. And she's seen it because, obviously, her dad. Mm-hmm. But that's why I think Floyd and Jeff Fisher went into the Ring of Honor together, was because they were locked in together. And then all the drama and the he said, and then the power play, and now Floyd's out and Jeff's in. And I think she wanted, that water to be under the bridge and just let bygones be bygones, and you guys were in it together. And I think that's how she feels about these two. But I have heard from a lot of people that that follow the team and that know the team but aren't part of the team, that there's a lot of eyebrows being raised about their relationship, Robinson and Vrabel, and if there's something to this or not. And the one thing that I keep going back to is that Diana Rossini clip from last week, where she just took a steaming dump on the Titans roster in praising Vrabel. And we assume that
she
came
wasn't
from Vrabel.
necessarily wrong.
I mean, you can look at it however you want to look at it.
Especially considering the injuries.
You can look, but the Derrick Henry injury happened right before they played right after they played all the important games.
Okay, but they still dealt with injuries on the entire roster, not just Derrick Henry.
I know, but those don't matter.
A.J. Brown injuries don't matter?
Like a Jackrabbit Jenkins injury does not.
An A.J. Brown injury doesn't matter?
But A.J. Brown's injury happened after Derrick Henry was
A Taylor
already hurt.
Lewan injury doesn't matter?
No. No, because Taylor Lewan got hurt in 2020. They just put Quessenberry in there, and they had one of the best offenses they've ever had. But Derrick Henry matters. A.J. matters. But to sit there and say they weren't good when A.J. was gone. Remember?
Yeah.
They lost in the
It was
Texan.
awful.
He got hurt in the Texan game.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in the Texan game? They lost. Then they played the Patriots the next week. They lost. Then they had a bye week. Then they had one other game without AJ, the Steelers. And they lost.
Oh, God, that game was awful.
That's why every narrative that comes up, I think sometimes you have to, analyze it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like Mike Vrabel did such a good job considering the fact that, they still won the division and they got the number 1 seed even though they had all these injuries. And it's like, how many impressive games? The Rams game was a Vrabel special. How many impressive wins did they have after Derrick Henry got hurt? Impressive. Wow, that game, the Titans, that was awesome. No, they beat Jacksonville twice. The Thursday night game against the Niners, AJ played it out of his mind. But even
that was a good game.
When we look back at that, Jimmy screwed it up. I mean, Jimmy, they had a lead early. They were driving down for a touchdown. Probably could have put the game out of reach. Jimmy just throws the ball right to Jackrabbit. So I don't like the narrative that came out of that, but a lot of people believe it. And my gut tells me Vrabel probably believed it, that injuries. And that is where a lot of people wonder if there's a disconnect between the two. Because you can argue that John Robinson did a great job. He got Deontay Foreman off the street. He got Dontrell Hilliard off the street. He got David Quessenberry from the practice squad to be a right tackle. He got Zach Cunningham. he went out and Buster Screen. I mean, so you could always make an argument for either side of it here.
But is that not so incredibly dangerous if you're head coach and your general manager on completely different pages?
The key to what you just said was if. Yes, it is dangerous. But it happens more often in the league than you know. What else we got?
Interesting. Another texter texts in and says, John Robinson probably talked to AJ privately, told him to be patient, play your best with Tannehill, and we'll have a new quarterback for you next year.
That is something I have no idea about. And I can't even speculate on that. All I know is he tweeted out that Marcus is the best leader he's ever been around. Derek said what Derek said, which was that he thought that was a shot at Tannehill. AJ politely told Derek that that was not the case, and AJ loves Tannehill, according to AJ, and that's all I know. To sit there and say like that, do you think Robinson went in the back room and sat there and said to AJ, I have no idea. I have no way of knowing that, and nobody would ever tell you even if it was true. So, I don't know. And then if you're AJ, doesn't that make you nervous? Because it's like, hey, don't worry. We'll go get you another quarterback. Well, if I'm a wide receiver, I want to know who the hell you're going to go get me, because if you're going to go get me Baker Mayfield, like, I'm not all that interested in doing that. So that I got a problem with. What else we got?
Sam texts in and says, if you traded AJ to the Jets, what would it have to be for? He says, for me to do it, it would have to be for at least 2 of their first 4 picks, 4, 10, 35, and 38.
So I believe that they were willing to trade 2 second-rounders and more in the Tyreek Hill deal. Now, Tyreek didn't want to go there, and Tyreek had a no-trade clause, which AJ doesn't have.
Right.
So if you were to try to trade A.J. Brown, which we will discuss at some point today, if you were to try to trade A.J. Brown, you could probably get a better package than the Hill deal because you still have 1 year at almost $4 million in cash. So you got 1 year at $4 million, and then you got to give the contract. Whereas with Tyreek, it was going to be, I think, $18 million, and you had to give the big contract, and he had a no-trade clause, which limited the suitors. AJ's on a rookie contract. He has no no-trade clause. The Jets, I think, offered those 2 second-rounders that are very high in the second round together, and then more with that. I probably would need the same package that the Titans got for Hill, but instead of a 1, 2, and 2 4s, I think I would need like 2 1s and probably 2 1s and a 2, and then some other picks in there too. Like, I think I would probably want an extra first-round pick because AJ doesn't have a no-trade clause, so I can trade him to all these other different teams. But, again, we can go over that, about with this, that, because the Titans have said they're not going to trade him.
Right.
So I'm not sure it really matters. Now, again, sometimes they say they're not going to trade the guy, and then they get to a point where they just realize, we got to trade the guy. Then the Predators, for instance, they, got to a point where they probably had to trade the guy, and they didn't trade the guy, and they're hoping they're going to sign the guy. So we'll see. But it certainly does not make me comfortable to commit to somebody before you have to commit to them to say, oh, yeah, we're definitely not going to trade him, but there's the rumor that came out that the Titans might be interested in doing that. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your phones. I've got a Preds thought on last night's game. They won last night's game. It was an exciting game. It was a come-from-behind victory. Tanner Chanot just stuck it right to him. But there's something about last night's game that I found to be highly disconcerting. We'll get to that coming up next. Hey, Preds fans, join us for Smashville Live this Wednesday on 102.5 The Game. Smashville Live airs on Wednesdays during the Preds season from 6 to 7, featuring Preds players, former players, and other special guests. And you can watch the show via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Be sure to join us for Smashville Live, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Partly to mostly cloudy skies will continue for us for the rest of the afternoon. High temperature only 56 degrees. We're warmer on Tuesday and Wednesday.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Third and Home is Germantown's bar with a ballpark. Overlooking the Nashville Sounds, you can have the best seats in the house when baseball season returns April 5th. Pro tip, stop by before the game to watch batting practice from the patio and enjoy happy hour food and drink specials. The mouth-watering menu at Third and Home includes signature items such as wings, stuffed breadsticks, classic burgers, and hot chicken and waffles. Third and Home is open Tuesday through Sunday at 11 a.m. For more, visit thirdandhome.com.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
You probably wouldn't leave thousands of dollars on the table at a diner. Why leave thousands on the table with your tax return? Jackson Hewitt will help make sure you don't. This year, there are thousands of dollars worth of new tax credits. Your Jackson Hewitt Tax Pro will help you track down every last one, so you get your biggest refund guaranteed. Don't leave thousands on the table this year. Discover thousands of dollars in tax credits instead.
Check, please.
Learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
Hey, it's Elijah Campbell from Darren, Donick, and Chase, and I got my radio start right here as an intern at ESPN 1025 The Game. It was an excellent experience, and we're now looking for new interns. If you think that's you, go ahead and send your resume over to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
One win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You're listening to Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Brought back out. Here's Carrier at the blue line. Off to his left. Yossi in front for the redirect. And the Predators take a 5-4 lead. Tanner Jeannot. Well, he celebrates being a dad with a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Oh, that's the way to do it. What a play that was.
One of the things when you go in those situations is where you make sure that your toughness and your identity doesn't wane. That, you know, we had 2 bad games. We didn't play well in LA and we didn't play well in Vegas. And I think the scores were indicative of how we played. But it's also important to make sure that when you come back that, tonight was more about the process. Like, we had to get back to an identity of gives us a chance to play. We got to get back to a work ethic and a style of play that we're proud of in the room, that the guys are proud of how they're working and what we're doing on the ice. And when you do that, the results will follow. And it wasn't so much that this is a must-win game. This is a must-get-back-to identity game. And we got to leave the rink tonight, regardless of the end result, feeling good about how we're working, how we're playing, how we're contributing, what our identity is, getting our culture back on track. You know, and tonight I thought the guys played a real solid game. I thought we deserved to win the game, and it's nice to see that we did it.
When I was in high school, I had a trainer one time that any time that you had any kind of injury, she just told you to put ice on it. So, like, we used to joke that it could be like, I've got a gunshot wound to the back.
Ice. Ice should do it.
Ice.
Advil.
Every
be fine.
time. So when things aren't going right for the Predators, all John Hines ever talks about is there's the identity that we got to play to, and if we play to the identity, then we got to get back to identity, which honestly, it looks like it's working because they're winning some games, but like, oh, God, it's so painful to hear. It's so painful to hear him talk about the same thing.
Well, it's such typical coach talk. You know, you pick
but
out
it's
the
not,
few little
it's
buzzwords.
It's really not coach talk, though.
Identity?
Like, John Hines, I mean, like, it is truly what he came here to do. And what he's trying to do is literally get them to play hard every night. Like, he's trying to get them to forecheck deep into the offensive zone every night. He's trying to get 4 lines to do it. He's trying to have them get the puck out of the middle of the ice in the defensive zone. And so I understand what he's doing. When he talks about identity, what he's talking about is he wants them to hit people. He wants them to forecheck deep in the other end. Like, that's what he wants. But he just talks about it all the time.
He does.
And I'm kind of tired of that. But I want to go around the room on this one because he's right. They got their bun smoked in L.A. They got their bun smoked in Vegas. And that team they played last night, I want there to be no confusion here. That team they played last night freaking sucks.
They're bad.
They are 31 points out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. They suck. And they had a 2-0 lead in the first period. And it was a dogfight. And if Jeannot didn't play out of his rear end last night, and then the goal at the end of the game, right before a possible overtime, I think there's a very good chance they could have lost to that crap team in the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's one thing to lose to a crap team. You're going to lose to crap teams along the way, just like there's going to be games where you beat Colorado or you beat really good teams. But there's a problem I would have had with losing to this crap team. And that is that you just got your rear end spanked 2 times in a row, and you looked awful, and then you started the game awful. That would worry me the first thing. Like, normally if you get beat by 2 teams in a row, 2 playoff teams, you get beat by 2 playoff teams badly in a row, that third team that didn't make the playoffs, they're going to get the business next week. I mean, that's normally how this works. The second thing is, in that Hines clip, he was just talking about identity and almost not, it's not a must win, but it is a must get back to our identity. 4 goals against that crap team? Defensively, they're a mess right now. And the goalie's not even playing all that well. Like, something's wrong with this team, at least for the last handful of games. That's how I feel. So when the coach keeps talking about identity over and over and over and over and wanting to get back to the way we play and wanting to this, and then you watch last night's game, Ian, did you feel like last night's game was the John Hines identity?
At times.
I mean, Jeannot got in a fight. So you got to give him that.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't give up a whole lot of shots. That's one thing I will say an improvement. I think they had like 3 goals on 6 shots at one point. Philly did. So,
which, if the goalie is not playing great, that's a concern because there's no way they do anything without the goalie.
See, I think that's what the key is here, is that Saros just hasn't been playing out of his mind in these games that they've gotten completely obliterated.
Well,
the
it was
games
Riddick.
They haven't played good as of late.
It was Riddick against L.A., and that was not Riddick's fault in that first period. What was it, 3-0 going to the break?
Pretty quick,
and
yep.
It was not Riddick's fault. Like that, I mean, there was one, I mean, like, and with Saros yesterday, I thought the first 2 he let in, he probably should have stopped. But, I mean, if they don't get the elite goaltending, they're not going to beat anybody. But again, like, defensively, they've been a mess for a while now. And sometimes like the Monday night game last week, Philip Forsberg, it was 3-3 going to the third period, and he just took over the game. And you're not going to get that in the playoffs. The other teams are not going to let you do that. Just like when you were great on defense, you did not let the other teams do that. You did not let the San Jose Sharks come in here in the playoffs. And you did not let that top line just go to work every time. You did not let Taves and Kane come in here and go bananas in 2017. And so I'm not liking what I'm seeing right now. And that is something that tomorrow they play a crap team. And they ought to smoke that crap team. You want to get back to the identity? I don't want to see that puck get through the neutral zone into your end. If you want to play with the identity that he talks about them wanting to play with, I want them all down there. I want, like, total puck possession. I want, lack of shots. I want because it just doesn't, just me, it just doesn't feel right now. It doesn't feel, and this is the time of year where you got to start. You don't have to get red hot this time of year. You need that to happen in the playoffs, but you got to start playing better than they're playing right now. Last night's game was the typical, right? Like, remember when the Titans beat the Texans after they blew that second half lead? And it was like, thank God they beat the Texans at the end of the game, because if they didn't, they'd be the 2 seed, not the 1 seed. And that could have been terrible for the Titans. And everybody was like, they won the game. Get over it. And I'm like, guys, Like, we need to be realistic.
And I think to take Mike Vrabel's term, it wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful. Like, that win wasn't pretty last night. Like,
it wasn't beautiful either.
But they got to win. And that's not always the most important thing. But at this point in the season, you got to pick up points wherever you can.
No.
What?
That's the playoffs. That's the playoffs. If you want to say, okay, once you get into the playoffs, I don't give a rat's ass how you win a game.
Well, it wasn't encouraging.
I do not care if it takes a miracle goal from Pontus Aberg against Anaheim to win a playoff game. Whatever it takes to win a playoff game, I'm fine with. Not this. I mean, they need to blow out the Ottawa Senators tomorrow. They need to blow them out tomorrow because right now you got to start playing well. And I'll give the coach credit in his buzzword coach talky kind of thing where he's saying it's not a must win, it's a must get back to our identity. Mm-hmm. So at this time of the year, you got to start playing like a competent hockey team. And the Predators over the last week have not looked like a competent hockey team. They've looked like a hockey team over the last week, in my opinion, that has been driven as being carried up the mountaintop by like 4 guys. And that's not going to work in the playoffs. That has never worked in the playoffs for this organization, and it will not work in the playoffs this year. That Roman Josi will not carry this team all the way to the top by himself. And right now, it's him, Jeannot, and Forsberg, and a little bit of Duchesne. Everybody else?
And Saros.
Where's the Granlund crybabies from last year that didn't want to trade him? Where the hell's he been? Where's Luke Cunnin been? Where's all these other guys been? They haven't been anywhere. I mean, so right now, I look at the Predators, and I think, like, you're getting close. There's 1 month left. You're getting close. And now the race for 4th place is it's getting a little interesting. The Predators are technically in 3rd place right now. They're ahead of the Blues. The Blues would go to Calgary.
That's a tight race, though.
Right, well, the Blues have games in hand.
Yeah.
So, in fairness, I still think the 4th place thing may come about, and that's all I care about is getting that 4th place. But they have got to start playing better. Because, I mean, if they pull one out of their ass against the Ottawa Senators tomorrow, I am going to rip them a new one. Because that's not going to fly. The Flyers are 31 points out of a playoff spot. The Senators are 32 points out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. No excuse. No excuse.
Yeah, these are not good teams.
These teams have thrown in the towel. And another reason why they shouldn't have lost to that crap team yesterday anyways is they already lost to the crap team this month. And in that one, Claude Giroux did like a freaking, lap around the ice, goodbye to the fans, and got traded to Florida. So you got to give me something more there. 615-737-1025. Does anybody want to weigh in on this?
Yes, we do have a couple texts.
Give it to me.
One texter texts in and says, why are we still talking about identity? It's the end of the season, basically.
Because every time they lose, he thinks that they get away from the identity. And I don't know how right that is. Like, they played hard last year against Carolina, and they forechecked against Carolina, and they, did their thing in every game, but that wasn't why they lost. They lost because they didn't have good enough players.
And sometimes you win and you get away from your identity. I would say that game last night wasn't necessarily a Predators identity win.
No, I mean, not against that ragtag bunch of losers. I mean, that team sucked. That team sucked.
It's not a
And the team that comes in tomorrow, they suck. Yeah. And the Predators should blow them out. So I'm going to give away some tickets. So tomorrow's game, they take on the Ottawa Senators, and I am fully expecting a blowout. Fully expecting it. Be caller number 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you are going to the Preds and the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. And we got a pair of tickets. These are going to be in the lower level in the Game Changer section 102. So you will be going to see the Predators take on the Senators tomorrow. Good luck to you on that one. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, the Titans have vowed they are not trading A.J. Brown. Is that actually the right decision? We'll discuss. TriStar Moving, those are my official movers. I've been telling you about TriStar for forever, it feels like now. And that's because they are 100%, hands down, the best moving company in Middle Tennessee. It's all right if you think I'm crazy, you don't believe my takes, you don't believe me, just go to Google and check out their hundreds of 5-star reviews that they get. It's because of the service that they provide throughout the entire process, starting with the estimate where their professionals come out and quote you, to their administrative staff that will work with you every step of the way, preparing you for the big day, and they're great movers. I moved with them, and I have sent tons of my friends to move with TriStar, and every time they call me back and say, thank you for telling me about TriStar, and that includes my cousin, who I hooked up with through TriStar Moving. The owners of TriStar Moving, Garrett and Robert, are Nashville through and through, and all they want is the opportunity to help as many of their fellow Nashvillians make it what can be a horribly stressful process as easy as possible. So if you're thinking about moving, give my friends at TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit their website at nationalmoving.org/radio and get a personal discount on me, 5% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219. nationalmoving.org/radio. Tell them Jared Stillman sent you for 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings from 5 to 9.
Did you see the Tennessee Titans?
He has all the weapons to make it happen.
There's so much to pay attention to. Greeny from 9 to 11.
Ryan Tannehill is the most disrespected player.
Art and Han from 11 to 2.
You never stop punching. They've got to learn how to close the deal.
And the Paul Feinbaum Show afternoons from 2 to 6.
Are these legitimate contenders to the party?
Your exclusive home for ESPN Radio in the Music City.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as 2 weeks from now with no cost to you and zero hassle. Mike and Joan in Brentwood called Loan Pronto and they did a Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi. They got a check for $100,000. They used $50,000 to pay off all of their credit cards and a car loan. Use the other $50K to upgrade their master bath and kitchen. They locked in a new APR in the 2s and lowered their total monthly bills by hundreds of dollars. Hello? What are you waiting on? Call Loan Pronto now and convert your home value into cash. Put that money to good use. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and pay time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe of Darren, Donick, and Chase. I started my radio career as an intern right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game. Now we're looking for our next great batch of interns. You think that's you? Send your resume to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply today.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Good morning. Morning.
Robbie and Rex Road mornings from 6 to 10.
It's not bad. Might have to work on that. Not bad. It's a starting point.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from Hillside Medical Game Studios. The NFL League owners meetings are going on right now, which means everybody's got to talk, including Belichick, who today, by the way, he doesn't talk at the combine. He doesn't really talk much after the season. Belichick doesn't talk unless he has to talk. He had to talk today. He says he's not going to have an offensive coordinator this year. He's not going to have a defensive coordinator this year, and they're just going to coach him up. So
what?
You think that's crazy?
A little bit.
It's Belichick.
Touche.
Where do you think Vrabel got the no defensive coordinator 2 years ago from?
Definitely Belichick.
Okay. So Belichick's got no offensive coordinator. He's going to be coaching offense, as is Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. And Gerard Mayo and his son are going to be coaching defense, and they'll figure it out, which is, I guess, how they operate. So everybody has to talk. So John Robinson talked to Jim Wyatt yesterday, and there were 2 articles, and I think it should be worth pointing out how odd it is that one article where Jim Wyatt talked to John Robinson was all about the entire team. So you had a nugget on Harold Landry, you had a nugget on Ben Jones, you had a nugget on Julio Jones, you had a nugget on Austin Hooper, you had a nugget on Robert Woods, you had a nugget on Jackrabbit Jenkins, on Roger Saffold, on Darrington Evans, all those guys. And if I left anybody out, I apologize. Jeff Swain, all those guys are in one little bucket. Then your second bucket was a whole article about A.J. Brown. Now, we think this isn't in response to the fact that Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN, said that the Jets would be keeping an eye on DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, and A.J. Brown. And the Titans know that A.J. looks at Twitter. They know A.J. reads his mentions. They know all that stuff, that A.J. wants to know what's going on. So the Titans probably put it out there. And then Vrabel today told the reporters, oh, yeah, the kind of father A.J. is, the kind of guy he is, he's this, that, the other. And when asked about trading A.J. Brown, which would be an interesting predicament if the Titans were to do that, John Robinson really puts the kibosh on that, which, again, I didn't even think they were thinking about trading A.J. Brown. But I also didn't know that Rich Cimini had put out that rumor. And in it, at the end, John Robinson said, we get calls about players all the time. That's what GMs do. I haven't received any of those calls about AJ, and if they do call, our intention with AJ, we are going to keep him in Nashville. He is an important part of our offense. The message, we are not trading AJ Brown. But is that the right decision? Now, I already know. The diehards, the fans, the text line, they're already going to say, how dare you, Jared, bring up the idea that perhaps moving on from A.J. Brown isn't the worst decision in the world. But I think there's 2 sides to every story. So I'm asking this question. I'm not insinuating that they should trade A.J. Brown. My position's very clear. I would not trade A.J. Brown unless you literally knocked my socks off, but I would think about it. And I'm going to tell you why I would think about it. Because since the day A.J. Brown was drafted by the Titans, he's been hurt. Now, he played 16 games as a rookie, but he missed half a training camp with an injury. And he was down and would go out and come back in, but A.J. played most of that rookie year fairly healthy. Ever since then, A.J. has been down and come bring the trainers out, and then A.J. goes to the sidelines, and then A.J. comes back in the game, and then A.J. goes down, and then come bring the trainers out. A.J. played 14 games in 2020, which, again, if it was like a normal, regular injury, if it was an appendectomy, and he had to miss 2 games, fine. Get the appendix out, he misses 2 games, he plays the rest of the season, everybody's happy. But as soon as last season was over, A.J. had surgery on both knees. Then A.J. shows up for training camp and within a week has a wrap over the knees. And they're already treating him like a grandpa with how much he doesn't practice during training camp. Because all they want to do is get A.J. to the game. Because when A.J. plays, A.J.'s really good. I'm not going to say he's as good as anybody else in the league because I don't believe that, and that's not true, but he's really good. Last year, A.J. played 13 games, which you would say, 13? That's not the end of the world, but it was really 11 because he got hurt early in the Colts game when he pulled his hamstring the first time, and he got hurt early in the Texans game, which they ended up losing because they had no wide receivers. If you sign A.J. to the massive contract, you are giving yourself an out. If A.J. gets hurt, the Titans are going to say, we signed A.J., he's just been hurt. And just like with the Julio thing, everybody will give them points for trying and will not deduct any from the fact that A.J. is, in fact, injury prone. A.J. also, if you trade him now, he is still relatively young, and he is not an older guy, so you would get a full deal in return. And here's what I think an A.J. trade would look like. We have something similar to go off of. Both Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill were traded within the last 2 weeks. Davante Adams was for a first-round pick and a second-round pick. But he wasn't under contract. They had offered him the franchise tag, but he wasn't under contract. And if the guy doesn't sign the franchise tag tender, then you can't fine him for not showing up. So he doesn't have to show up to training camp. So if you're trying to get this, you got to give the contract, which teams compare giving the contract to another first-round pick. So make the assumption that Adams went for a first, and a second. Tyreek Hill to Miami, who had a no-trade clause and used the no-trade clause to veto a trade to the Jets. Tyreek Hill, a first, a second, a fourth, and a sixth. So basically, Tyreek Hill went for a first and 2 seconds. So that's what you're probably looking at for A.J. Brown. You're probably looking at a first-round pick, if you're lucky, 2, and then at least 2 second-round picks, and probably like a sixth. That's similar to the Stephon Diggs deal as well, when he left Minnesota and he went to Buffalo. Now, again, the Titans have not had a receiver like A.J. Brown since I was in the 8th grade, and that was Derek. And that's a long time between then and now. And A.J. showed last year against San Francisco, and in the playoff game, and in the playoff game the year before against the Ravens, A.J. has shown that he can take over games even against really good players, which is a hallmark of a great player, which is you got a good corner, you got a number one corner, I can still throw the ball to you. A.J.'s shown that he can handle that. Now, he has a little bit of an issue with the drops. But we keep being told that all these teams that are losing wide receivers are going to replace their wide receivers by drafting new ones. Green Bay hasn't gotten any new receivers, but we're told this is a deep wide receiver draft, and they're going to replace Davante Adams by drafting the next Davante Adams. Kansas City, while they signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think we all know 1-year deals for him and Juju Smith-Schuster, that's not the same as Tyreek Hill. But with all these draft picks that Kansas City has in a deep wide receiver draft, we're told they're going to go get the next Tyreek Hill. And if I had to guess, I'd say there's a chance that Kansas City ends up drafting a really good receiver and develops him into a star player because I trust Kansas City when it comes to that. What about the Titans? I'm not sure I trust the Titans to go find another A.J. But at the same time, can you really invest all this money in A.J. Brown and then him get hurt? And there's a lot of guys. I have friends that I went to college with that are pro athletes who literally tell me how guys in their sports just try to paperclip it together in order to get the contract, and then they get the contract. And while they still want to be out there and playing for their team, it's just not the same as trying to get to the contract. A.J. signs one of these babies, he's good. $72.2 million guaranteed over 3 years for Tyreek Hill. If A.J. Brown signs for that, he'll have $80 million in the bank. He's good. He's good. $80 million. Now, he'd probably like another contract after that. He'd probably like to get $150 million. But you get $80 million, you're good. And so I think it's fair to say that there's two sides to this. And I know the fans don't want to. I know the fans want to. AJ's our guy. AJ's a Titan. AJ's the best receiver we've had. Nobody talk about trading AJ. But I think it's fair to say he's going to want top of the market money. He's getting hurt all the time. He hasn't shown the ability to not get hurt. And now he's going to cost you. And what's going to happen is if you sign him and he gets hurt and you lose because he's out, they'll say, we tried. How were we supposed to know AJ was going to get hurt? And that's the exact same thing that happened with Julio. It's the exact playbook that the Titans use, which is when they make a decision and the decision and the risk backfires on them, they put their hands in the air and they act like it's not their fault. And that's what's going to happen. But I'm telling you on the front end, there is a solution here if you're worried about AJ's injuries. So what do you think? What do you think? And what do the callers think? 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. They have said they are not trading A.J. Brown. Is this the right decision? That's all I'm asking. 615-737-1025. Plus, there's another player that John Robinson, I think, has indicated that he'd like to sign, and there are no qualms from me on this one. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Every Friday at 8:30 on Robbie and Rex Show, we talk with the legend, Terry Chris, about all things Nashville Predators, presented by Copper Branch on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Gary Ashton here. Most people in Nashville know me as the don't sell without the intel and the guaranteed offer guy. But despite my accent, I'm also 100% guaranteed Nashville. I'm a guaranteed musician, a guaranteed dog lover, and you're also guaranteed to see me at every Titans and Preds game. Guaranteed offer means the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage will sell your house for top dollar with no cleaning, staging, showings, or open houses, and give you up to 90 days to close. So there's plenty of time to find your next home. Guaranteed Nashville means my team lives here and loves it here. We've served Nashville for over 20 years, and we're passionate about helping the people we call neighbors and friends, which is why we've had a long-standing tradition of donating to the Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. If you're thinking about a guaranteed offer, get the only one that's guaranteed Nashville. Request a no-obligation offer by calling 615-301-1650 or go to GaryAshton.com today. Remember, Gary Ashton, guaranteed Nashville.
The 2022 Major League Soccer season is officially here, and the Nashville SC Stadium nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Grab a seat at NashvilleSC.com/22ticks.
To understand what makes Genesis Diamonds so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back over 40 years to the diamond cutting capital of Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where Genesis owner Boaz Ramon grew up, in the center of the diamond universe. His connections with the best diamond cutters allowed him special access, giving rise to a thriving wholesale business here in the United States. Then, after a few years, this wholesaler changed the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices he had sold to the jewelry stores. The no middleman concept became an instant success. Today, Genesis Diamonds provides that extraordinary value to people right here in Middle Tennessee, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best price of any jewelry store in America. Genesis Diamonds, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Genesis Diamonds, now with a stunning Omega Watch Boutique, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hockey fans, tune in to Robbie and Rexroad every Wednesday morning at 9:30 for expert commentary on the Predators and the NHL with the Preds beat writer from The Athletic, Adam Vingan. Brought to you by the Bank of England Mortgage.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. So you need to change your oil. Right now you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Daily Protection or Valvoline Max Life High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP oil filter, plus an STP air filter or cabin air filter for just $36.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, Mike, a lot of talk, obviously, about the season AJ had from a production standpoint, but today he went down with an injury, came back, played well. That's happened a lot this season where he's gone down and come back in games. What is his level of toughness like? I know you've brought that up, but his toughness of playing through these injuries.
He's either really tough or he just likes us all to go out there and, pick him up off the ground and dust him off and send him back in there. I haven't figured out which one it is.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel at the end of the 2020 season when AJ got hurt every game. Like this year, I don't think AJ got hurt as much where it was get the trainers out for AJ. But I felt like Ian that season in 2020, and AJ had a fabulous season. But in that 2020 season, I felt like every game it was like, not AJ.
I mean, it almost feels like that every game, regardless of the season.
It really does feel like that. And again, AJ played 13 games last year, but he really played 11. Now, when he's on the field, he's a bad man. But AJ had 869 receiving yards last year. Here's who he was around in terms of production. Here's who was behind him. Jacoby Myers was 3 yards behind him.
Okay.
Amari Cooper, who Dallas said this year, not worth the money. Amari Cooper was 4 yards behind him. Chase Claypool, A.J. Green, Marvin Jones Jr., Dallas Goedert, a tight end, Tyler Boyd, who's the third receiver in Cincinnati, Brandon Ayuk, who's also the third option in San Francisco, Dalton Schultz, Rob Gronkowski, Van Jefferson, Kendrick Bourne. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, we can sit here and say, AJ is the best player, and AJ gave you 869 receiving yards last year. Now, AJ is a bad man. Like, I'm not taking anything away from that. So I said this. I'm just asking the question. The Titans yesterday basically said, we're not trading A.J. Brown. We know what the going rate is for a receiver, and these are receivers that then immediately have to get paid afterwards. And in the case of Tyreek Hill, could invoke his no-trade clause. But it's still a lot of draft picks. Is the smart decision to risk A.J. Brown with the money and the injuries, or is it to try to start over again and get another A.J.?
You said you just started watching The Office, right?
I did start watching The Office. Where are you going with this?
Okay, so Steve Carell ends up, spoiler alert, ends up leaving the show.
Why would I want to know that? I just started watching it.
It's later on in the show. Don't worry about it.
I know.
Okay, well, surprise.
That was really messed up.
You're gonna find it out eventually.
Dude, what were you doing there? You've ruined Ian. Come on,
you're being so dramatic. I didn't ruin the show for you.
Ian, was that a?
If you didn't know that by now.
I mean, it's not really part of a huge storyline.
It's really not. It's not part of a huge storyline.
How is it not part of a huge storyline? It's The Office, and he's in charge of it.
You watch it, and you'll figure it out. But Steve Carell ends up leaving the show at the peak of its popularity, right after he won an Emmy, and everyone was asking, why would you leave right now? And he said, I wanted to get out on top. I didn't want to ride into the sunset and have the show go downhill and me go downhill with it.
I think Dave Chappelle did the same thing with Chappelle's show.
Did he?
Yeah, I think Chappelle's show was freaking popular.
Yeah, and then he
was just gone.
Because you want to get out while you're on top. You don't want to see what you love go downhill and you be part of it. So I understand the thought process of, if you're the Titans, get out while you're ahead with A.J. Brown. If you're the Titans, maybe trade A.J. Brown while his trade value is really high and while he's still attractive to other teams.
And he is attractive.
And he is attractive because he's a great wide receiver. So you might want to say, okay, go ahead and get out on the A.J. Brown sweepstakes if you're concerned with his injuries, so you don't pay him a gajillion dollars. And so you're not paying him a gajillion dollars to sit on the bench.
Because if you do and he gets hurt, you lose.
You lose, and you're out money, and you're out a wide receiver. So I see that line of thinking. I just don't know if I'm completely there yet, because I look at it the same way that a lot of people have looked at the Philip Forsberg situation, for example. If you give up Philip Forsberg, then who do you have?
Sure.
If you trade A.J. Brown, who's playing wide receiver for this team? And I don't necessarily like that argument. The same thing of, if you trade Tannehill, who's going to play quarterback? Who's better?
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
Again, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers are Super Bowl contenders, and they just traded probably two of the best three receivers in the NFL.
And it necessarily didn't get better with those trades, with getting rid of Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill.
Absolutely
The Titans aren't going to be better if they trade A.J. Brown. But are you looking at the future and saying, we don't want to pay A.J. Brown, let's say, $70, $80 million over the course of a few years if he's just going to ride the bench? But also, who's playing wide receiver for this team if there is no A.J. Brown?
So would you rule it out?
I would not rule it out. No, I would not. But I'm not there yet.
Ian?
I don't know. I mean, how long has this team been struggling to find a legit wide receiver?
So I get that element of the argument, but I don't think it's right, because if you can't draft wide receivers, then you shouldn't be GM.
Okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I get what you're saying there, but the chances of all second-round wide receivers to hit like they did A.J. Brown. I mean, Corey Davis was the 5th pick, and and he hasn't hit. There's a lot of
Tavon Taylor was the 3rd-round pick that year.
Yeah, and so to strike a 2nd-round pick to get it seems like he fits the offense really well.
Well,
it's not like
the offense is him.
So especially the passing game, especially, right? So I mean, I feel like they're pretty comfortable building the passing game around A.J. Brown and the style that they like. Now, maybe, does he translate to different quarterbacks? Can he produce with other quarterbacks other than Tannehill? Is he adaptable to different styles? That might be something they have to look into.
Now, you used the perfect verb right there about the Titans. And that's why the Titans aren't going to do this. They would never. This is why the Titans aren't even going to consider a trade for A.J. Brown. And it is the verb that Ian just used. Did you hear it?
I don't know.
Do you remember what you said, Ian?
I'm not exactly sure which one you're referring to.
Comfortable.
That's not a verb.
They are comfortable.
That's not a verb.
Are is the verb. They are comfortable. They are comfortable. And so that's an adverb.
Or is it?
No, because they are. What are they?
They're an adverb. Yep.
The adverb that Ian used right there. That's it. They are comfortable with A.J. Brown. So let's take Kansas City. Kansas City trades Tyreek Hill. So right now, you cannot convince me the Kansas City Chiefs are the same team today that they were last week when it comes to the Chiefs. You know, like lose Julio Jones, you know, that doesn't change who the Titans are. You know, if they were to lose, they lost Byron Pringle, who was a big part of their passing game. You know, that doesn't change who the Chiefs are. They can lose one of these running backs. Doesn't change who the Chiefs are. You lose Kelsey, you lose Hill, you lose Mahomes, you lose Reed. You're not the same team. So they are not the same team. But Kansas City looks at themselves and they think, we'll go get we got all these picks, a first, a second, a fourth. They might take 3 wide receivers with those picks. And so one of those guys they would probably assume is going to work out. And they probably feel pretty comfortable about it because they know what they're looking for, because they know they can just throw the ball 100 yards down the field because Mahomes can do it. And then they know they can develop receivers because they got Mahomes and they got Andy Reid. And so they think, like, you know what, we're not going to give $72 million to Tyreek Hill. So we can do this. I don't think the Titans look at themselves like that. Now, I think if you were to go to Robinson and say, can you draft a wide receiver, he'd say yes. But I don't think he's as confident that he can go get another AJ like Green Bay is confident that they can go get another Devontae. Because Green Bay for years, before Devontae, it was Randall Cobb. Before Randall Cobb, it was Jordy Nelson. Before Jordy Nelson, it was Greg Jennings. Before Greg Jennings, it was Donald Driver. So, like, they've always had these guys. And so they'll just go get another one. And I don't think the Titans feel that way, but that's comfort. And sometimes comfort doesn't allow you to get better. That's what everybody tells you when you talk about, hey, what you really got to do, you got to push past the comfort zone. And Minnesota won't get rid of Kirk Cousins, and they're comfortable with it. And that's what I think with the AJ thing. And I think AJ's a great player when he's healthy. And, I mean, the way –
But that's a big asterisk.
With the crap that he's been dealing with at quarterback this past year with Tannehill, I mean, to play the way he played in the Niners game, to play the way he played in the playoff game, I mean, AJ played that game like a bad man. And AJ is a bad man on the field. But, boy, he gets hurt a lot. And you're talking about a lot of money. And that's where I look at this. And when you said, like, I'm not there yet, you got to make your decision now.
I know.
Like, you got to make your decision before the draft. Because you can't. We don't know what the wide receiver class in next year's draft is going to look like. And even if they know, they don't know yet because they haven't played the college season. But if you go into the season and then you have to try to extend AJ, and then if these may hold out, now that's going to hurt your leverage. And then if he hears this, and then it's a really tough spot to be in, but they're going to have to make that decision now. There is no more football things that can transpire. Because, like, let's say AJ gets hurt week 2, then you're probably like, oh, yeah, trade him. Because he's hurt again, and there you go.
And that's an easy decision
now,
to make.
But now who's going to offer you
there is no
the
trade
Tyreek Hill
market for him.
package?
Yeah.
Who's going to offer you the Devontae Adams package? And that makes me really nervous. Because, again, like right now the Jets would be willing to sell the farm. And that's an organization that cares what people in New York think. They listen to the fans too much, and that's why they always suck. And they would trade you a fortune for A.J. Brown. I'm not saying trade A.J. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the initial reaction to just brush it off, like, oh, no. How are they going to get another A.J.? I don't know. How's Kansas City going to get another Tyreek Hill? How's Green Bay going to get another Devontae? They'll figure it out. We trust that they'll figure it out because they've always done it. We don't trust the Titans to figure it out. But that line of thinking, that does you no good if he goes out and gets 869 yards this year. It does you no good if he gets 3 more receiving yards than Jacoby Myers this year. It does you no good if Amon-Ra St. Brown has better statistics next season than A.J. Brown. Like, here's who's ahead of A.J., because I went with who's behind. George Kittle, who gets hurt all the time too.
Yeah.
George Kittle.
But also is a tight end.
Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions. Rookie 4th-round pick, I believe. Devontae Smith. DK Metcalf. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Christian Kirk, who just signed for $1 bajillion.
DK was out for a few games this season, no?
It said 17 played, but who knows if he got hurt and whatever. Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, but now you're into the 1,000-yard receivers.
And those are big-name wide receivers.
Right. So, I mean, look, but the injury stuff is a concern. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Plus, there's one other interesting element that I think you have to think of when it comes to an A.J. Brown extension that nobody's talking about, but is an interesting part of the Titans. I want to get to that next. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. One of the things that I love about betting my favorite sports is that I'm always finding new player props or game props that I like. And what's cool about FanDuel Sportsbook is you can combine prop bets from multiple games and now even multiple sports. It's called Same Game Parlay Plus, and you can only find them on FanDuel. Combine NBA player props you love with your favorite NHL scorers for a chance to score an even bigger payout. And right now, Philip Forsberg's going for that new contract, so a lot of you like him. So I'm thinking he's going to keep scoring goals. And Tanner Chenot's making me look like a dummy, so you might want to bet on him as well. If you don't want to build your own same-game parlay, check out their popular same-game parlay section where you can join the bets that other users are jumping on. Earlier this season, over 14,000 customers won a total of $1.1 million during the Bucks at Lakers game. And if you're new to FanDuel, sign up with the promo code JGM to get $150 in site credit guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Make every moment more and download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Just use the promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with the shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Jim Gaffigan Live in the Fun Tour.
When you have kids, you lie to them all the time. You're like, you wouldn't like this ice cream. It's very spicy.
March 30th, Bridgestone Arena. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Produced by Outback Presents.
Signs First is the official sign company for 1025 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Realizing Geico's great service and licensed agents are available at your fingertips is like realizing the plastic piece that comes with your pizza isn't a tiny doll table. It's to keep the box from touching the pizza.
Hey, the pizza's stuck to the box. Where's that little plastic thing?
Dolly needed it for her tea party.
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or how your smartphone charges faster when you put it on airplane mode.
Wow, what if I put it on rocket mode?
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico's industry-leading app lets you pay your bill, file a claim, manage your policy, or summon help when you need it. Or how those holes in your shower caddy are there so you can store your shampoo bottles upside down.
Showers happen fast when you're not waiting on shampoo.
Great service. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
Tuesday night.
With a feathery touch.
It's a battle in the association.
Corner three is all the money from Bullock. Dallas leads.
As the LA Lakers head to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. Coverage begins at 6
on ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Jordan Rogers, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Me, man, I'm still chasing to be the best every day. I want more for myself personally, you know. I feel like I'm just getting started, you know. feel like I can do anything I want to do. Not to just talk about my goals, but you know, I feel like I can definitely be top 2, you know, in the league, and I'm gonna keep chasing until I'm not.
There you go, A.J. Brown. And again, the Titans coming out in their own article written by Jim Wyatt, who tagged A.J. Brown in the tweet. I mean, the Titans wanted A.J. Brown to see that John Robinson is committed to signing A.J. and that they're not going to trade A.J. with the rumors coming out from Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets, that the Jets are interested in A.J. They want A.J. to know that they are not interested in moving on from A.J. And I believe them 100%. You know, I'm usually skeptical about what these teams say and do. I believe the Titans 100% on the A.J. thing. But here's one thing I find interesting. Again, as we talked about the injuries and we talked about the production, we talked about, here's one thing I found interesting about A.J. The Titans are not really committed to anyone on offense past this season. So Tannehill's got a big cap number this year, but if they don't do anything with his contract, it'll be $9 million in dead money pre-June 1st next year. You wait till June 1st, or designated as June 1st, $4.5 million against your cap. Derrick Henry, next season, I believe, is a $3 million dead cap charge, so that's really $1.5 million. Not a lot of money there. Taylor Lewan, no dead money after this year. You can release Taylor Lewan after this season. We don't know what they're going to do at right guard. Ben Jones, they're committed to for this year and maybe next year. I haven't looked at that contract. Nate Davis at right guard is a free agent. They don't have a left guard. Robert Woods, there's no dead money attached to. Austin Hooper and Jeff Swaim are signed on one-year deals. So everybody on the entire offense is basically on a one-year contract, including AJ, who's a free agent at the end of the year. I wonder how that plays a role into this and how it plays a role into it for AJ. Because if the offense struggles this year, Downing's getting fired, Derrick's getting cut, Lewan's getting cut, Robert Woods is probably getting cut, Tannehill's probably getting cut. Now what the hell are you? Just something to keep in mind.
I mean, it is. And, like, that's the tough thing is what we're going to weigh for the future or right now. And I think that's a really tough decision that the Titans have to face very soon.
Well, but again, I mean, if they sign AJ, they're signing AJ for both right now in the future.
Yeah.
The future's important.
But
so
that's the thing is if they sign AJ.
In 3 years, AJ's production still has to match whatever you think you can get out of those 3 picks. Or 4 picks or whatever it is that they end up getting for AJ. When the Titans had the number 1 pick, we were doing the pregame show in 2015. And I cannot tell you how hard it is to do a pregame show when the team is absolute hot garbage. Now, the Titans have actually been pretty decent the last 6 years because they've always had winning seasons and the playoffs have always been talked about. And it hasn't been a lot of meaningless pregame shows. But that 2015 year was just rough. I mean, it was a rough year to do the pregame show. And I remember before the last game against Indianapolis, if they lost, they'd get the number 1 pick. And I remember Derrick and Floyd were so confident they were going to trade the number 1 pick. And I was like, why? Like, go get, like, Joey Bosa. Mm-hmm. Or go get, Jalen Ramsey. Or go get one of those. And Floyd goes, is Joey Bosa worth it if I can get Derek Mason, Samari Rolle, and Michael Roos? So a 10-year starting left tackle, a number 1 corner that was an all-pro, and a wide receiver who was an all-pro in Derek Mason. And you would say, no, I'll take the all-pro receiver, all-pro. I'm like, but they're not going to get those guys if they do that trade. And they got Jack Conklin, Derrick Henry, Jonnu Smith, and Corey Davis. So if you were to trade A.J. Brown and you were to get that in return, now it's not going to be as good for that as it was what you got for Goff. But if you did that, that would be the way to think about it is – if you are A.J. Brown, I mean, he's a great player, but at the same time, if I can go out and get Derek Mason, Samari Rolle, and Michael Roos, I would take that over A.J. Brown and have to pay A.J. $22 million a season.
And that's easy to say now, but I think a lot of Titans fans, maybe even the Titans themselves, may look at it like, okay, we can roll the dice with what we could get in return. But also, how many trades have gone so poorly?
Yeah, but you're still rolling the dice there. You have to believe in your ability to draft.
Yes.
You're rolling the dice on his health.
And the Titans should believe in their ability to draft.
Drafting is in your control, though.
But do we believe in their ability to draft?
It doesn't matter what we believe.
No, it doesn't.
Because what they should do is based off the assumption that they have that they can draft. In that same draft, 2016, Titans moved out. They got Conklin, Henry, Austin Johnson, Corey Davis the next year, Jonnu Smith for that pick that was Jared Goff. The Browns did the same thing. They moved out on Carson Wentz, and they got nobody in return. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Let's go to your phone. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Dre texts in and says Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, for the most part, stay healthy. A.J. Brown does not. I would trade him if the right picks were offered.
That's the thing. In the case of the Chiefs, they wanted to sign Tyreek Hill, but he wanted too much money. So then they traded him. The Packers wanted to sign Devontae Adams, but Devontae, according to everybody, which this goes back to anybody who thinks that leaked information just happens to get out and there isn't reasons why it's leaked, this will tell you everything. The Packers knew that Devontae wasn't coming back. Devontae had said he wasn't coming back. Derek Carr knew he wasn't coming back and he was coming to the Raiders. And Aaron knew that Devontae was going to the Raiders. And they still did it. And nobody knew, which is crazy. Because if anybody had an inkling that Devontae Adams was going to be gone, then everybody would have said, Aaron's not going back to Green Bay. There's no way Aaron's.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, those guys didn't want to be there for a particular reason. AJ wants to be here. We don't know how much money he's going to want. I think he's got the same agent, I believe, as Devontae Adams. So maybe they want to keep AJ. And they said, Robinson did, I believe in the Jim White article, that they had some talks at the Combine about, preliminary talks about getting something done at the Combine. And whatever they talked about at the Combine, that's changed now with Adams and Hill. I mean, even if AJ's not going to command as much money as those guys, which AJ should not command as much money as those guys. But even if that's happened, it's probably changed a little bit. But there could be a situation where they sit down and they're like, yeah, we want $29 million a season. And it's like, well, we can't do that for a guy who had 869 receiving yards last year. And then it starts to get a little contentious, and then you got to go ahead and make a deal. What else we got?
Well, another texter would like to let us know that comfortable is a predicate adjective in that sentence.
Okay.
So thank you. Another texter texts in and says Titans can draft a wide receiver. They just can't develop wide receivers, just like Kansas City cannot develop offensive linemen.
How can you say that when Kansas City's offensive line developed in the middle of the season last year? Creed Humphreys, the center, was an all-rookie team member. I think Trey Smith was on the all-rookie team too. I mean, Kansas City will be fine. I don't understand that they can't develop a wide receiver. A.J. Brown has turned into, a Pro Bowler. And so I don't think that the Titans can't develop wide receivers. I'm also not of the belief that Titans can't draft wide receivers. They haven't drafted a lot since John Robinson took over as general manager. Forget about Dez Fitzpatrick. I'm talking about like high-end guys that they wanted. Davis was kind of a bust. He wasn't a bust, but he was kind of a bust because he was the 5th overall pick in a loaded draft, and you didn't even want to sign him to a second contract, and he always gets hurt. And when they drafted him, he was hurt. So then, after that, they drafted Taywan Taylor in the same draft. He stunk. Then they drafted AJ, who's been really, really good, and they haven't drafted anybody else of note. And these last 2 wide receiver drafts, they told us, were excellent wide receiver drafts, and they didn't even draft anybody high. Now they tell us this upcoming draft is an excellent wide receiver draft. And I'm still kind of like, are they going to take a receiver? Everybody seems to think they were going to take a receiver, and then they traded for Robert Woods. So then that kind of quelled that. You know me. I want quarterback because I want to know what the future of the position is, and I want Desmond Ridder to be that guy, and I don't know if he is or he isn't. But I'm starting to hear people say things that maybe confirm the belief that I want to have, which is I want to know that Desmond Ridder can be the quarterback. But again, I do not agree with the idea that the Titans cannot develop wide receivers. I do not agree that the Titans cannot draft wide receivers. I just don't think they've taken enough shots in either direction. I mean, look, you want to talk about developing wide receivers. And I'm not saying Nick Westbrook-Akina is a dude or anything like that. But Nick Westbrook-Akina has developed into a serviceable NFL player. Now, maybe you look at Khalif Raymond, who goes to the Lions and gets a bunch of yards and some touchdowns and things like that and say, well, why couldn't you do that with Khalif, which is fair. But I wouldn't say the Titans. I am not convinced the Titans can't develop wide receivers. And I think if you're Robinson, like if John Robinson were to get, let's just say a Tyreek Hill return, a first, a second, a fourth, and a 6th. He's going to think he's going to get 3 good players out of that. Like, he knows he's going to miss on 1 or something like that. He thinks he's going to get 3 good players out of that. 3 good players or AJ? And I think that's a fair question to ask. 3 good players or AJ? Again, I think it's fair to ask.
Ideally, you would take 3 good players.
But AJ might be worth 3 good players because he can take over a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Byard, for the most part, can't. So, like, I love Byard, but he didn't take over the game like A.J. Brown. You know, I love Jack Conklin, but Jack Conklin doesn't take over the game like A.J. Brown. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Back to your thoughts on this. Plus, bad take Joe Rexrode with another bad take surrounding the Titans, but this is a take that I think people believe. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Mainly clear to partly cloudy skies heading into the evening hours tonight. Temperatures drop to about 40 degrees. Warmer conditions on the way for Tuesday. Plenty of sunshine, highs in the mid-70s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Tired of mosquitoes ruining your summer? Stop the bite. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com and check out your special offer. Take back your summer. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free. Plus, a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
Realizing Geico is your one-stop shop for all your insurance needs is like realizing you can just toss the whole measuring cup into the washer so it won't get gunked up with laundry detergent.
I guess it doesn't work for coffee mugs, huh?
It's something that's been right in front of you this whole time, like how Geico offers 24/7 emergency roadside service to help you when you need it most. Or how athletic wristbands aren't for your wrists, they're for wiping sweat off your forehead.
Great. So, what are headbands for?
80s night at the dance club. Woo!
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance, with even more ways to save when you add boat, motorcycle, and RV insurance. Or how a pony is its own animal and not just a baby horse.
So, what's a baby pony called?
Getting more ways to save. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
I can go from 0 to 60 way too fast.
Who knew electric vehicle owners were having so much fun?
20 or 30 years ago, I owned a gas sports car, and this car is much quicker.
It's a great, fun car to drive. When you put your foot on the accelerator, it just goes.
They're fun, they're fast, they're efficient.
Visit driveelectrictn.org to learn how you can start having fun driving an electric vehicle.
Sponsored by the East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things down.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company, and we got a bunch of phones to get to, 615-737-1025. But I clicked this because, I don't know, sometimes I just, Joe Rexrode had a bad take from old Bad Take Joe.
Classic.
I mean, and it was a bad take. So The Athletic had every team pick out their biggest needs for the draft now that free agency's over or whatever. And Joe said in The Athletic that the Titans need to go wide receiver. And I was like, what? So Joe writes that they need to go, even though they traded for Robert Woods, they need to go wide receiver in the draft. And I'm sitting there like, this can't be real. And this is a problem that I think I have with a lot of people. And Joe's not the only one, but I think most everybody else, they're all fans. What do you think the biggest, I'm going to ask each of you, what do you think the most important position that the Titans do not have filled right now is?
Right tackle.
Ian.
Yeah, I'd probably have to say right tackle, O-line.
It is, of course, right tackle. Like, I mean, I'm sitting here, so when they made the trade to go out there and go get, Robert Woods, because I think a lot of people, and Joe said on our show in Jared versus Joe, he said when they cut Julio, well, now they have to draft a wide receiver at 26. And I'm like, I mean, they don't have to, but they don't have any wide receivers. And I just wanted to get a wide receiver in here so that they don't have to draft a wide receiver with 26 pick. And I tried to get the Titans to, sign Morgan Moses, who ended up going to the Ravens and is going to play right tackle for them. And, I mean, I've talked about right tackle, right tackle, right tackle, right tackle. The guy who started at right tackle last year, they could have on their team for $2 million. They don't have on their team. And it's like, yeah, they'll just wing it. And I'm like, they're not going to wing right tackle. They're not going to wing it. Now, in all of the talks that they've had, now this is where I get a little worried because they did wing it last year. And Joe said on Jared versus Joe last week that he thinks the Titans are going to go into training camp with the hope that Dylan Radins can play right tackle. Well, I mean, if you hope that and you get out there and he can't play right tackle, y'all should all be fired. Because it's one thing to do that last year. It's another thing to do it the second year in a row.
When you really don't have a backup plan either.
Oh, and just because he didn't give up a bunch of sacks in the Niners game doesn't mean he's a good left tackle. Because I think it was Blake Bedingfield wrote that, he went back and watched the film, and Blake was a longtime scout for the Titans. Mm-hmm. And Blake, I think, wrote, and I say I think it was Blake because I can't remember if it was Blake, but I think it was. Blake Bedingfield wrote at Kaharski's website that, he was awful. That, he went back and watched the tape, and that Radins was awful.
Well, I think a lot of people looked at it that Joey Bosa.
He didn't give up any sacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that not giving up sacks does not mean that you're good. That's like if you're a corner and you don't give up a touchdown in one game, that doesn't mean that you're a good corner.
It can
if every
mean you're
other
good.
game they're throwing the ball over your head for touchdowns.
It can mean you're good.
But I think the Titans think this Jamarco Jones can play right tackle. Because Vrabel was pumping his tires up today when he was talking about, I recruited him. I went to a basketball game on the south side of Chicago when he was 17, and we were recruiting him at Ohio State. And then Robinson was talking about how they liked him coming out in the draft, and they think his best football's in front of him. And I think they're going to do the exact same thing they did last year, where they took Kendall Lamb and Radins and said, okay, let's see, whoever wins the job in camp is going to be the right tackle, and then both guys sucked. Now, I don't know Jamarco Jones from a jar of Vicks.
Joe does.
But, Joe saw him play 14 snaps, including special teams, when they were in Seattle.
Uh-huh.
So maybe Joe knows. I'm sure that's what Joe was looking at as he's getting ready to write his column when he was at the game. Was let's see how Jamarco Jones plays.
Probably.
As he comes in as a reserve on the offensive line. But again, like last week when Robinson was going to where all the top first-round offensive line prospects were that aren't the top 10 guys, I thought that was a sign that they're drafting right tackle. They got to draft the right tackle, right? And again, you know me, I'm not a draft-by-need guy, and I don't trust the Titans to draft offensive linemen because they did a terrible job the last 2 years of it.
Well,
and I don't trust Keith Carter, this offensive line coach, to be able to develop a young right tackle like Russ Grimm, the previous coach. I did trust. I do not trust them. But you can't tell me today that wide receiver is a bigger need for the Titans than right tackle. Right tackle is the need. It's the one glaring hole on the roster. It's the one thing. And they can get better in a lot of places, and they can get more depth in a lot of places, but they do not have a right tackle.
See, pre-Robert Woods acquisition, I think that you could have made an argument that wide
Agreed.
receiver
Yes.
was the biggest need for the Titans, that wide receiver is what they should target in the first round.
Sure.
And although acquiring Robert Woods doesn't completely eliminate the need for adding more depth at wide receiver, it definitely alleviates the need for drafting wide receiver in the first round. Not saying that they still could.
It definitely makes right tackle a bigger need than wide receiver.
And if they still see a wide receiver that's sitting there at 26 that they just absolutely love, and they are salivating at the mouth that this wide receiver dropped to 26 and they want to take that guy, fine. But right tackle is still a need. Offensive line is still very much so a need.
Unless you think Radens is going to be able to play right tackle this year.
I mean, I'm not ruling that out, but I'm not going to put all of my eggs in Dylan Radens' basket.
Well, like Luke Warsham, who's a really, really, I mean, like, I think Luke's got some serious potential.
Yeah.
Luke Warsham tweeted me like a week ago because he tweeted out and he said, is the Titans roster better in 2022 than it was in 2021? I'll say yes, or something like that. Or is the offense better or whatever? And, but like when when you're playing toward like the fan sites and you got to say things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Luke probably believes it, but I said, they don't have a right tackle. And he was like, call me crazy, but I think that Radens might be better than Quessenberry. I'm like, well, he freaking wasn't better last year.
But also, is that a high bar? Is that a standard?
He'd have been in there at right tackle if he was better than Quessenberry.
But is that the standard, better than Quessenberry?
I mean, if not, just bring back Quessenberry.
Yeah.
It's $2 million. It's less than Jeff Swaim. Oh, my goodness.
I still cannot get over the fact the Titans are paying Jeff Swaim that much money.
What a gross overpay. What a gross overpay. What do we have in the text line? 615-737-1025.
Chip from Mount Juliet texts in and says, a great quarterback makes a mediocre receiver good. Can Tannehill make a mediocre wide receiver good? I don't think so.
I mean, he made Corey Davis was almost a 1,000-yard receiver under Tannehill.
But is the Tannehill with Corey Davis the Tannehill that we're going to see in 2022?
No. Well, I mean, I think that, but that's not what they think. They think the answer is yes. Or at least they say that they think the answer is yes. But here's my thing. When you're a great quarterback, and I talked about this last week with Mahomes, when you're a great quarterback, and now I'm kicking myself in the butt because I did 7 hours of national radio this weekend, and I didn't bring this up, and I'm like, why did I not bring this up? And so I'm literally kicking myself in the butt now thinking about this. But I brought it up here last week, which was if you're like an elite quarterback, you make your receivers don't make you. You look at Peyton, all the receivers he made in Indianapolis, all the receivers he made in Denver. Like Eric Decker was a mediocre receiver, and Peyton turned him into a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
Pierre Garçon was a mediocre receiver, and Peyton turned him into a really good player. Really good players like Marvin Harrison or Reggie Wayne or Edgerrin James, Peyton turned into Hall of Famers. Brady's the same way. Like Brady had Troy Brown for forever, and then he lost Troy Brown, and he had Deion Branch, and he lost Deion Branch, he had Wes Welker, lost Wes Welker, he had Julian Edelman, goes to another team. Like Brady, always rotates these guys in and out. Tannehill is not Brady. Tannehill is not Rodgers. Tannehill is not Peyton Manning. Now, Mahomes might be one of those guys. So if Mahomes is that guy, then just like when Brady lost Troy Brown and ended up having to come up with Randy Moss, he'll be able to lose Tyreek Hill and create somebody else. Tannehill is not that. That is the difference between, the great quarterbacks making the – we'll see if Mahomes is that good. Tannehill is not. What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, your thoughts on Jamarco Jones potentially playing left guard?
Who the hell knows? If anybody tells you that they have a feeling on Jamarco Jones, they're lying.
Unless they covered the Seahawks.
Unless their name is like Mike Munchak.
Or Pete Carroll.
Even Pete. Pete's never been an offensive line guy. And Pete's never had great offensive lines. So, I mean, I don't know. If a guy I trusted about offensive line told me about Jamarco Jones, about him being this, that, I would listen. If Pete told me, I'd be like, okay, Pete. I'm serious about that. I like Pete, but I also know Pete. And the thing about Pete is that, offensive line's never been a huge priority with Pete. Wow. Personnel has never been a huge priority with Pete. And if you look at the personnel of the Seahawks, it could use a little improvement.
The ESPN stat gurus actually have the projected offensive line as Lawan at left tackle, left guard Jamarco Jones, right tackle Dylan Radens.
Good luck to them.
Don't know if that will work.
615-737-1025. I think Aaron Brewer is the fallback option at left guard. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Governor Bill Lee be like, where are we going with this one right
I'm
here?
a little bit nervous about that.
Nope. And we are not talking about critical race theory. We are not talking about, what are the other things that people care about? Gas prices. We are not talking about
Russia.
We are not talking about transgendered people playing sports. Governor Lee has set aside some money for a new Titan Stadium, but it is not as simple as it sounds. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Take us wherever you may go.
There are 2 guys on my untouchable list.
Tune us in anywhere, anytime.
Every team's got those. That's my point.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, it's me, Chase McCabe, and listen, you know that I love BetMGM. I use it all the time, and I talk about it all the time. They are the king of sportsbooks, and they unleash the spirit of Las Vegas with BetMGM rewards. Every time you make a wager at BetMGM, you can earn BetMGM rewards points that you can redeem for online bonus credits like free bets and risk-free tokens. If you're planning a trip to Vegas, like I am, you can also convert your BetMGM points into MGM rewards points that you can use towards dining, shows, and hotel rooms at over 20 MGM Resorts properties located on the Las Vegas Strip and nationwide. BetMGM Rewards is sports betting's premier loyalty program featuring exclusive offers, incredible experiences, and valuable perks when you wager on the BetMGM app. Sign up with BetMGM or log on today and get an even bigger piece of the action with BetMGM Rewards. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Harman Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Harman Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution providing totally outrageous customer service.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture, eat strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
Come float at Float Horizon in East Nashville. Come float to relax, recharge, renew. Float to boost your mood and enjoy a pleasant afterglow that lasts for days. Float to escape or meditate. And come float for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week. Experience a 60-minute float session for just $39.50. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to get your float on today. Lay back and experience the wonders of true relaxation at Float Horizon at 1012 Russell Street in Nashville and floathorizon.com.
Hey, it's Elijah Campbell from Darren, Donick, and Chase, and I got my radio start right here as an intern at ESPN 102.5 The Game. It was an excellent experience, and we're now looking for new interns. If you think that's you, go ahead and send your resume over to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So I know, people who barely passed high school biology in the last 2.5 years have become experts in infectious diseases and vaccines. People that don't know anything, that don't know the difference between Eastern and Western Europe, know everything about Ukraine and Russia. I know everybody now knows more than the doctors. I know everybody now knows more than the generals. I know everybody now knows more about the legal system than the lawyers. I know. I get it. I understand. So pardon me while I say that there's a lot of things that I'm about to talk about that I don't truly understand. City and state finance is one of those things. I never took a finance course in college. I never took, high school. They don't teach that kind of stuff. When you sit here and talk about municipal bonds and what this means for this stadium, that I don't exactly know what it means. So there's an article, Nate Rao had the scoop, that Governor Bill Lee proposes $500 million towards a new Titans stadium. Governor Lee is asking the Tennessee State Legislature to approve $500 million in bonds towards a new Titans stadium as part of his amended budget, multiple sources have told Axios. Lee's commitment of $500 million is just a portion of how much it would cost to build an enclosed stadium. A brand new facility would likely approach $2 billion. Now, according to Bill Lee's proposal, and I think a big word right here is proposal. According to the proposal, the financial commitment, Nate Rao writes, comes with major strings attached. The money must go towards an enclosed stadium and not an open-air stadium or renovation, which basically is saying if you want the $500 million from the state, you better have a dome. Now, guess how much a roof costs?
A lot.
About $500 million. So if you were looking at a $1.2 billion stadium, you want to put a roof, you're looking at like a $1.8, $1.9 billion stadium. It's going to cost around $2 billion. If they say $2 billion today, it'll be like $2.6 billion when it all is said and done. That's a lot of money. And so, as Nate Rao writes, a new dome stadium will be the centerpiece of a broader redevelopment around Nashville. The new stadium will be located to the east of Nissan Stadium, closer to the interstate, and the only previous known financing piece was a state law passed last year that redirects a portion of the sales tax dollars generated at a new development to help pay for stadium upgrades. So that is a real roundabout way of basically saying the people who use the stadium are going to be the ones that pay for the stadium. However, it gets a little bit more complicated there. And again, I am not an expert on this stuff. Like, I am not Richard Riebling. Like, I don't know how to go through all this stuff and say, okay, well, that's just bullcrap. Like, they're saying that that's it, but that's not important. Here's what I know. I know that the Titans originally didn't want to charge the city and the state a lot of money for a new stadium, thought $600 million could renovate it, and they'd be good, easy peasy, let's move on. They found out that wasn't the case because the stadium was cheaply made, which we all agree on. The stadium's a piece of crap, but it's our piece of crap. The next step is where it gets kind of interesting. The local Nashville government, the way that the people of Nashville vote, they will never vote for people that are consistently pro-stadium. Even the current mayor, John Cooper, came into our studios 3-4 years ago, and he and I got into it over the soccer stadium. I mean, and when he got put in as mayor, he shook them down for every penny in order to get that soccer stadium built, which as a taxpayer, I kind of like, because if John Ingram can pay more money, make John Ingram pay more money. But again, I digress. We don't know how the local government is going to do this. People would say, well, hey, Governor Lee stepped on board, $500 million. But all the $500 million does is it essentially guarantees that the Titans would have to build a dome stadium, which I am for. But they'd have to build a dome stadium. But all it's doing is paying for the dome. It's not paying for anything else. So you got 3 sides in this negotiation right now. And 4 when you add the NFL, because they're going to be involved in this too. But you've got the state government, which is proposing $500 million. We don't know if that'll get approved. It will. $500 million. But again, we need at least $2 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're 1/4 of the way there. Is the city going to give you $1.5 billion?
Probably not.
So then how do you get there? I mean, the Titans are not going to pay $600 million towards the stadium. Now, they're going to pay something.
Won't?
Absolutely not.
How much do you think they would pay?
So I think a relocation fee in the NFL is $500 million, so I think they'd probably pay $500 million. And then they're going to need to take out loans from the NFL, which is a big part of this. They're going to need to take out loans from the NFL, which most teams do. Like the Rams last year, I think they had an emergency meeting where the NFL allowed teams to take out higher lines of credit. And so the Rams took out higher lines of credit because the stadium overruns and everything else of SoFi Stadium. But again, let me state right now, like as a disclaimer, I don't totally understand this. Like I read one economist that said the idea of the Titans turning the east bank of the river into like a new district and then having the tax money from that is actually not going to really make it any different than the taxpayers paying money, because all it's doing is, let's say, taxpayer money, that $3 billion is spent in taxpayer money over the course of a year. Just use a round number, $3 billion. $3 billion is made in taxes over the course of the year. Well, the new stadium isn't going to make it $4 billion spent. It's just going to be, instead of people spending it in other places, they're just going to spend it there. So ultimately, they are paying for the stadium, even if they're not directly paying for the stadium. So even if it's not in your taxes, stadium tax, it is essentially the same thing, because now they're going to have to raise taxes on the stuff that's not spent in the development, because they're still going to have to do things. Mayor Cooper has said basically that they are not going to, whatever they do with the Titans, and I want to make sure I get this right, has to involve, like, there still has to be, it can't take away from affordable housing. It can't take away from education. It can't take away from the general fund. Basically, we can't not fund the schools in order to build a new stadium.
Which is fair.
Where are they going to get the money from? And it ain't going to be the Titans. And so here's what I think's happening. People will look at the Titans and the initial proclamation of, we don't need a new stadium, we just need renovations, and then, yes, Titans. Or, we don't want to use any taxpayer money here. We just want to change how the sales taxes work on the new redevelopment district that we're going to own. The new redevelopment district, and the sales tax of that will pay for the stadium. But again, that's still, like, you're not adding money to the equation. You're just moving it from one place to another. And the city, like the people that do this stuff, they can see right through that. The fans, like, I'll tell you, I have like 1/10 of the 5% of the understanding that I probably need to have like a great conversation on this. But I still think it's a lot more than like the average fan.
Mm-hmm.
So the Titans are telling you, we don't want taxpayer money. But that's kind of a facade. It's technically true, but it's not really true. The governor,
sounds good to say.
The governor is telling you, we're proposing $500 million for the new stadium, which sounds good, but it requires it being part of a dome and everything else. So it's almost like he's paying for the dome that he's requiring you to build when you build a stadium. Then there's the metro government that says, we're not going to take money away from schools. We're not going to take money away from public housing. We're not going to take money away from this. And you got the Titans who are like, well, we're going to pay, some part of this, but I mean, let's be real. The Titans didn't leave Houston, where Bud Adams lived. They didn't leave Houston to go lose money on building another stadium. And so what I think when I saw this today, and I heard somebody talk about it, and they had no clue what they were talking about either, and I heard somebody talking about it, and I was like, this is all the PR game right here. But I think there's a chance that this is going to get very contentious between the Titans, between the state, and between the city. And I think it's going to be a triangle. Now, I think they're going to keep a lot of this out of the media. Bert Nihil, who's the president of the Titans, who's going to be running this operation, he is not a, debate stuff in the media guy. Mayor Cooper, understands that he's not very popular, probably stays out of the media a lot. Governor Lee stays out of the media a lot, which I'm kind of thankful for, because some of these other governors that want to get on TV all the time sometimes embarrass me. But I do think that this could get kind of contentious. Like, this could get kind of ugly. And you hope it's not, but it looks to me, again, all the stuff that has been broken by this has been broken by Nate Rao, a political reporter, which means it's the political people who are pushing this out there. And that is where it's like, okay, like, this is, you got three entities here, and they all have a certain amount of leverage, and they're all going to try to maximize their leverage. But at the end of the day, like, it could get kind of bad. Like, I just want to prepare everybody for what I know is true, which is, let's say you're buying a new car,
mm-hmm.
and your parents say they're going to help you out. It's your first car, Your parents say they're going to help you out. Let's say your parents are divorced. And so your parents say they're going to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to buy a $10,000 car. And dad gives you $4,000. But he has some conditions now for this car. And you don't know what mom's giving you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what you're going to have to pay towards this car.
Right.
Like, if all you've got saved up is $2,000, and now you got $6,000, now you got to get $4,000 from mom, or else how are you going to pay for this car?
$2,000.
No, if it's a $10,000 car.
And dad's giving you 6 and you have 2.
I thought dad was giving you 4.
I thought dad is giving 6.
I think dad's giving you 4.
Okay, but doesn't matter.
Right. So
you're gonna have to get something out of mom.
And I just don't. I just don't see it. Like right now, the math doesn't add up. Now, here's what's going to happen: is people that say we're not going to go $1 more than $500 million. Then they'll go to $800 million, and then they'll go. And eventually, I think it'll probably get worked out. But I'm just preparing everybody right now. Everybody is taught nice early on. Soon, nice is going to go out the window. And we know with the Titans when it comes to football decisions, but also non-football decisions. And we know with politicians that at the end of the day, what really comes down to is the deadline. And the leverage that the city has over the Titans is, I believe, a relocation fee in the NFL is $500 million. And I don't think they want to pay that. So that's really, at the end of the day, what you have. So let's add that to the pile. 615-737-1025. And again, it's only been proposed $500 million. What does it actually mean? Taxpayer money. And again, a lot of this, I'm sure a lot of this stuff, because I don't totally understand it, I'm sure a lot of this bores a lot of you too. But I do think it's a big deal because it's a stadium downtown. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get your thoughts in on that as well. And there is a new stadium that is being built in the NFL. And why we cannot use this as a comparison for the Titans. I'll explain that next. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Hey, college basketball, great weekend that we had until we got to the Elite Eights. If your bracket's not looking well, don't fret. We have one final chance for you to win with our 4-team Game Bracket Challenge. Go to theGameNashville.com/bracket challenge now to play for a chance to win a pair of tickets to see Shinedown at Bridgestone Arena on May 4th. The Game Bracket Challenge is brought to you by Coach's Corner Sports Grill in Spring Hill, Delta 8, and Wager. Every Wednesday, it's me, Jared Stillman, against Joe Rexroad for Jared versus Joe. Brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Visit ParmanTractor.com, your Middle Tennessee link belt and Takeuchi dealer.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Inviting you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We're offering some exciting new menu items. We have Grandma's famous chicken and dumpling soup. We're offering a fun and new exciting Nashville hot battered shrimp. We're also very excited about our confit chicken hash. Join us in Kitchen Notes for our award-winning patty melt made with our house-made pimento cheese, local Blackhawk Farms beef patty. Come join us in Kitchen Notes and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Lunch at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
For years, you've known Genesis as the premier jeweler here, where you can always find the most sought-after brands in fashion and bridal jewelry. Genesis carries the best of the best, brands that others aren't even allowed to carry. But now, Genesis takes it to a whole new level with a spectacular collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes. If you've ever dreamed of owning the world's most revered brand, you owe it to yourself to get to Genesis now and see watches people wait years to get. Luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariners, Hulks, Daytonas, Batmans, and so many others. We've scoured the country hand-selecting only the best for our showcases. The most popular models, the most well-cared for, the ones most in demand. So don't wait any longer. Reward yourself or someone you love today with a luxury pre-owned Rolex from Genesis. It's just another way Genesis Diamonds does whatever it takes to bring you only the world's best. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you, whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan. They're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because With a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the twos. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
So the NFL meetings are going on, the annual meetings, and they'll talk about the overtime rule and other rules and things like that. One important reason for the NFL owners meetings are because that's where the owners vote on the big things that matter to the owners. You know, overtime matters to some of these owners, but it really doesn't matter to other owners. Stadium deals, that matters to the owners. And right now, the Titans, Governor Lee, is proposing $500 million in state funds, but it has to be a dome. Now, today, and this is kind of like if you're negotiating a contract and then you see, you know, another wide receiver signs, and it's like, well, now that changes the contract you're negotiating here. The Buffalo Bills are getting a new stadium.
I saw that.
So this has been talked about for forever. And they have tried. I mean, like, the stadium in Buffalo is legitimately dilapidated. Like, they can play, like, 2 more seasons, and it costs, like, $100 million a year, or it costs millions and millions of dollars a year just to keep the thing together.
From crumbling.
It's in horrible shape. That stadium has been there for forever. It is a horrible stadium. Well, so apparently, here's how the money is breaking down. The state of New York, Kathy Hochuli, the governor of New York, $600 million from the state. So that's $100 million less than Bill Lee is proposing. The county, Erie County, $250 million. It's a lot of money. That's like how much it cost to build Nissan Stadium the first time. The Pagulas, who own the team, $350 million, and the NFL is going to put $200 million towards the new stadium. So you see, you're getting like $500 million out of the NFL and the owner. You're getting $600 from the state. And you're getting $250 from the county. So you would say, okay, $1.4 billion, that's good enough for a new stadium. This sets the record because apparently the state of New York and Erie County are contributing $850 million to construction costs. That this is the most money in the history of the NFL that publicly funded money has been used on a stadium. And this is the most ever.
Wow.
Las Vegas got $750 million in tax money to build Allegiant Stadium, which was a big factor in the Raiders moving from Oakland. Now, again, I don't know the whole deal with this, but from the way it's been proposed, I do not believe this has a roof on it. So they're building a stadium without a roof, and they're using the most money in taxpayer history in Buffalo, and it's not even going to have a dome. And the state has agreed to $100 million more than the state of Tennessee has agreed for a new stadium. And I don't see John Cooper pumping out, $250 million. I just don't see it. I mean, again, and I don't know local finance. I don't think we have $250 million. Now, there are municipal bonds, and I'm not exactly sure how that works either. But that's the going rate right now for a $1.4 billion stadium. We think the Titans are going to be close to $2 billion, and our governor is proposing $100 million less. Like that $200 million from the NFL, like that's the most you're getting too. The NFL does not look at Nashville, Tennessee and think we have to have Nashville. And they don't look at Buffalo and think we have to have Buffalo. Now, here's the one good news about this. New York is a pretty liberal place, liberal people in general, and I am generalizing here. Liberal politicians do not like paying for stadiums. They will not do it in California. That's why the Rams had to pay for everything there. They didn't want it in L.A. We don't want a team. We want to have a team there. Well, we don't want one. But we'll pay for the stadium. All right, fine, go ahead.
But is that necessarily politically driven, or is that more geographical? Because in California and in Los Angeles, they don't necessarily need the Rams. What does Buffalo have without the Bills?
They have nothing. But, I mean, Oakland has lost everything. Oakland has lost the Raiders. Oakland is going to lose the baseball team if they don't act right.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the Warriors. I mean, they've lost everything. So, you know, that is my point there, is that in a lot of places, and again, I'm not Bill O'Reilly, and I'm certainly not a, you know, local tax guy that knows this kind of stuff, but it seems to me like these sides are going to have to dig in, and I think that this is a big step to know what the NFL, like, Amy Adams-Strunk doesn't have the money the Pagulas have. Does she have $350 million to be able to pay up for a stadium? Because let's say that you get the same $550 that the Bills are getting, that the Bills are giving for their new stadium project.
Mm-hmm.
So you get $550, $500 from the state. So now you're at $1.05 million. I mean, $1.05 billion. Well, now I need another billion.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting that from? So I'm just saying, be prepared for it to get contentious. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do we have in our text line?
One texter texts in and says, how much would Nissan spend? Maybe it's Tesla Stadium and Elon Musk pays for it.
Yeah, I don't think that naming rights like that, they don't ever buy the stadium. They buy the rights to have the name on the stadium, and they're not that much money. There's just nothing, there's no way around this. Unless, you know, somebody decided that they want, like, somebody that had a bunch of money could do it, but they're going to want to own the development of it. Like, they're going to want, okay, well, we're going to build all around the stadium, and we own around the stadium, and you own the stadium. And the Titans don't want that because the Titans want to own around the stadium. So that's not going to happen. Like, John Ingram's got tons of money, right? But the big fight with him and John Cooper for Nashville SC Stadium was he wanted to own the land around the stadium. And he wanted them to give him the land, and he would build the stadium, and he would buy the team, and he would bring the team here, and he would do all that. That was the deal. You pay for all that, but you get to own the land for free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ain't going to happen here. Like, the Titans are not going to. So that's where the Titans are going to pay their money, but they're not going to pay. You know, if the Pagulas are paying $350, they're paying $350. They ain't paying $500. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says, so you think if we don't get a stadium, will the Titans move away again?
Yes.
Really?
Are you surprised by that?
I mean, a little. I mean, understand that this isn't the first time that's ever happened, but, I mean, it shocks me a little bit.
Why?
Where are they going?
What do all these teams do when they can't get a new stadium built?
They go somewhere else.
They move.
But do you think the Bills would have moved if they hadn't gotten a new stadium?
Oh, hell yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's happened in the past.
This is the number one entertainment property in the United States of America. It is number one. It is a $15 billion a year industry. And if they wanted to play games on Tuesday night, it'd be a $17 billion a year industry. And you think that they look at Nashville, Tennessee like, oh, we can't do this without Nashville, Tennessee.
No, I never said that.
So they would move.
Like, if they don't get a stadium, what, in the next 5 years?
The lease ends in 2027.
Okay, so 5 years.
So they would move.
Dang.
I mean, I can't believe that you're shocked about it. I mean, this is business. Here's the leverage everybody has. The Titans, in order to relocate in the NFL, you have to pay $500 million, I think, is the relocation fee. It might be more than that. I can't tell. But that is to keep teams from moving every 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So the negotiating power that the city has is that they have the lease, and the Titans don't want to pay $500 million.
Right.
The negotiating power the Titans have is to move. That's it. If there's no threat of the Titans moving, why'd you build a new stadium?
I mean, we talked about so many events that could go there, and that's money for the city.
But it never
it's
makes
an investment for the city.
It never makes the money back that you spend on it. Once you have the NFL, it's different when you don't have the NFL. But once you have the NFL, you're not bringing new money here.
Why not?
Because the people who already go to the games and the people who already use the facility are already using it.
But if you have a different facility that could accommodate different events.
So that's where the NFL has to step up to the plate. And that's why, what did I say when this all started? I said I need 2 Super Bowls. Not 1. 2 Super Bowls. And that's why Governor Lee is requiring a dome for the stadium, because he's basically telling the Titans, if you want our money, we need a Super Bowl. And I think you need to have 2 Super Bowls. I think you got to get that out of the league. 2 Super Bowls. You give us 2 Super Bowls, we can get our own Final Four. You'll make a little bit more money, but you're spending more money too. So it doesn't really factor out that way. And I'm a big believer in sports, and I'm a big believer in stadiums and stadium districts and things like that. But like Cobb County, Georgia, where they gave the Braves all that money to move in there, they still have to make cuts all the time to the budget and education and parks budgets and things, because what they said was going to be self-fulfilling is not self-fulfilling. It's just the Braves getting free money. But that's what it took to get them there.
So that's kind of interesting to me, though.
But they don't really get
Then
anything out of it.
What's the push?
Well, these big-time guys, they like, they
to
like
be able
going
to tout
the
the sports
games,
team?
and they like talking to the owners, and they like being on the plane, and
That's why?
There's
Because they like
certainly
to
a
be
part of that.
bougie?
They're certainly a part of that. They're certainly a part of it. Hey, remember that stadium deal? Oh, by the way, will you use my contracting company when you go out there and you build that sign that sits there and says, Nissan Stadium 2? You'll use my sign company, right?
Schmoozing.
That's all it is.
I understand that it's all a business.
I mean, and it's definitely not good. I mean, by
No.
any stretch of the imagination. 615-737-1025. Add that to the mix. 615-737-1025. I will say this. I am not sure how much Titan fans care about all this, about the stadium.
Well,
I think they look at it just like, stadium will get built. Stadium gets built. We're fine. Everybody move on.
They'll
And I
care
don't
about
like
it whenever it affects them.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how most people are about most everything.
Yes.
615-737-1025. John Robinson had some strong words about A.J. Brown. But there was another player that John Robinson said he wants to keep. And nobody's really talking about it. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. Hiller is giving away free vacations for you and your family this month with the purchase of a new whole home generator. Every purchase or select new HVAC systems, Hiller is giving you a free week-long vacation. With every purchase of a new tankless water heater, Hiller is giving you a free weekend vacation, and they're giving you a Visa Rewards card to help pay for your gas to get you there. Choose from over 400 Marriott, Wyndham, Hilton, or Hyatt hotel properties, and take advantage of this unbelievable deal while you can, because these deals are only available for a limited time, so make sure you schedule today. Visit happyhiller.com for all of the details. As always, Happy You'll Be Here. The service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
It's been a busy offseason for the Tennessee Titans.
I think this is a one-year prove-it deal for Austin Hooper.
Big move for the Titans. Robert Woods. He fits what they want to do.
Harold Landry. I think he likes playing here. The Titans keep the cap number small. Landry got exactly what he wanted.
Now the focus shifts to the draft. What needs do the two-tone Blues still have? Who can contribute right now? Keep it locked to Nashville's best sports talk. Talking Titans
On ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The 2022 Major League Soccer season is officially here, and Nashville SC's new home, Geodis Park, is nearly complete. Don't miss Nashville SC's home opener May 1st. Secure your season tickets now. Come on and grab a seat at NashvilleSC.com/22ticks.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and it's getting down to crunch time in the tournament. The Final Four is set, and right now FanDuel Sportsbook is giving new customers a $150 instant bonus guaranteed. That's right, you'll get $150 in bonus site credit, and all you have to do is place your first bet of $5 or more. How you bet the bracket's up to you. You can choose from the money line, totals, prop bets, and so much more. I like Duke to get it done. I think Coach K has one more magical run left in him before retirement, which I know is going to make a lot of you happy. But you can take it any way you want to take it. Just make sure you join FanDuel today with promo code ROB. Then you can place your $5 bet to score $150 in bonus site credit guaranteed. Once again, that promo code is ROB on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
If you've got a yard, you may plan on digging in it. Like to build an addition, put in a pool, or bury your pirate booty. But you should know that throughout the country, there may be pipelines buried underground. And if you hit one, you've got trouble. Sorry. So before you dig, call 811 to have any buried pipelines located and marked at no charge. For more tips on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to hide?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz. ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is Greg McElroy, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The Titans are all in on keeping A.J. Brown. John Robinson telling the team's website how much they want to keep A.J. Brown. Two articles from Jim Wyatt, who I guess sat down with John Robinson for 30 or 40 minutes or whatever. And normally he writes one article or one article per player or whatever. He had one article in which mentioned Roger Saffold, Kendall Lamb, Darrington Evans, Jackrabbit Jenkins, Julio Jones, Harold Landry, Ben Jones, Jamarco Jones, Trenton Cannon, A.J. Moore, Robert Woods, Jeff Swaim, Austin Hooper. And then he had another one that was about A.J. Brown and how badly the Titans want to keep A.J. Brown. And we've talked about this over and over again, but this is an all-in. Now, this started because apparently Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN in New York, he said that the Jets were keeping an eye on DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, and A.J. Brown, which, okay, I can tell you right now, DK might be different because it looks like Seattle might be rebuilding a little bit. I can tell you today, right now, unequivocally, Deebo is not leaving San Francisco.
No.
And the Titans said that they don't want AJ to go anywhere in this article with Jim Wyatt, which, again, was before John Robinson talked to anybody else, before the media got to the owners' meetings when he did this was like a preemptive strike. Quote, right now we're trying to get through the free agency period and seeing where we landed cap-wise. AJ is an important part of what we do. He's a great teammate. He works hard. He's about what we're about. AJ is a Titan, and we want to keep AJ as a Titan, and that's part of our goal this offseason or whenever that manifests itself to come to an agreement to keep AJ around. Emphasis.
Woohoo!
But he really showed you that he wants to keep AJ Brown. Then another interesting element is, what about the guy drafted in the first round, the year that they drafted AJ Brown, which would be Jeffrey Simmons? Mm-hmm. Ben Arthur has an article at the Tennessean where he talked to John Robinson about Jeffrey Simmons. And I'm going to read you the quote on Simmons. Now, let me just ask you guys this before we get to what Robinson said about Simmons. Who's more important to the Titans, Simmons or Brown?
I would say Jeffrey Simmons.
Ian?
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to lean Simmons.
I think it's Simmons too. So Simmons is the more important player. Now, Simmons has a $10 million fifth-year option that the Titans will absolutely exercise. And, he will not play on that. So, if he gets after this year, he's going to want a contract.
Right.
And I get it. So when asked about Simmons, John Robinson said, quote, Jeff's a good player, Robinson said at Monday's NFL's annual league meetings. Quote, we want to keep as many good players as possible. He's certainly in that top group of guys that we want to keep in Nashville. That sound like the AJ thing?
No, it does not.
Robinson continued, quote, he was a player that drew maybe some criticism when we drafted him for a lot of reasons. 2 reasons. One, when he was in high school, there's the video of him, beating the crap out of that woman. And 2, the knee injury that he suffered, leading up to the draft.
Both valid.
That was the criticism. He was a player that drew some criticism when we drafted him for a lot of reasons. He's been a great teammate, been a great leader, been a great performer on the field. He's a player that we want to keep around here. That just sounds like the same thing he said about Landry, which, again, they got to deal with Landry Dunn. But it doesn't sound like AJ, where with AJ, it's like, AJ is our guy.
But I don't think that has anything to do with the way the Titans feel about AJ and Jeffrey Simmons.
Do you think it has to do with their personality?
I think it has everything to do with the market.
What do you mean?
I mean, look at the market for wide receivers right now.
Look at the market for high-end D tackles.
But also, I mean, is there something on the inside that has leaned that maybe AJ Brown could be on his way out? Or that Jeffrey Simmons has wanted to stay in Nashville and wants to stay in Nashville for his career, and he's already addressed that to John Robinson and Mike Rabel.
But we don't know that. So we
don't know that. I'm
you're
speculating.
Throwing out an if without like a hook that's something that somebody said or something. The only thing
I'm
we have
speculating
was Derek
on
Mason saying that he thinks that AJ doesn't want to be here if Tannehill's still here.
Which
AJ then refuted.
Yes, but I am speculating on what may have gone on behind closed doors with Jeffrey Simmons and with AJ Brown that prompted them to release these articles, statements, whatever you want to say.
I don't know.
That they feel like they need to kiss the ground that AJ Brown walks on in order to get a better deal or in order to keep him to stay. Maybe Jeffrey Simmons has already expressed the fact that he wants to stay in Nashville and he's willing to negotiate with his agents and the front office of the Titans in order to stay a Titan for his career. I don't know. I'm speculating, but it's very different the way that they speak about Jeffrey Simmons, the way that they speak about AJ Brown. And if the three of us think that Jeffrey Simmons, if you're going to have to pick, Jeffrey Simmons is probably a more important player for the Titans right now.
So Vita Vea signed the most recent big-time defensive tackle contract.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the problem. You know who's going to sign a contract before Simmons signs his contract?
Who?
Aaron Donald.
That's who I was afraid that you were going to say.
So Aaron Donald's going to sign a new contract before Simmons signs his. Vita Vea, 4 years, $71 million. Here's what's crazy, though, is it's really essentially a 2-year contract for Vita Vea. And he doesn't get a ton of money. Well, it's actually more like a 3-year deal for Vita Vea. But the money that he's getting, I'm a little surprised. It's not as much fully guaranteed. It's only 14.7 guaranteed at signing. So for Vita Vea, only this year and next year does he have a huge dead cap number. And then after that, they can get out of it.
How old is Vita Vea?
Vita Vea is 27 years old.
Okay,
so he's in his 4th year. I mean, I don't watch enough of the Buccaneers to know, but I think that Jeffrey Simmons is a better player than Vita Vea. I mean, I think you're looking at, like, DeForest Buckner's contract, which was 2020. DeForest Buckner signed, let's see, what did he do? Because this will kind of give us a good idea. DeForest Buckner, 4 years, $84 million. And it was essentially a 3-year deal in which the next 2 years there's no dead cap money for them, $19 million for Buckner, $20 million for Buckner. So it was essentially 3 years at, let's see, 23, 17, 16. So you're talking about $20 million a year.
Uh-huh.
For DeForest Buckner, that's probably what you're looking at with Simmons. You're probably looking at 4 years, $80 million. In real money that's going to be owed to Simmons, it'll come in somewhere around $100 million at 5 years, but it's really not going to be that. But it's going to cost now. Let's go to Aiden. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Thank you for calling. Aiden on the draft. Go ahead, Aiden.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I was wanting to talk about something I saw today this morning. It was a Titans mock draft where they had the Titans trading up with the Ravens to select Sam Howell, the quarterback at North Carolina. I thought that Sam Howell would probably be a second-round draft pick. I don't see this happening at all. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that mock drafts are completely irrelevant, and I appreciate your call. And I used to, get into it back in the day until Floyd just kept being like, these guys don't know anything. And I kept being like, really? And then I made a comparison to a mythical figure. Very chunky.
Mm-hmm. You probably said something you shouldn't have said.
I did. I did. A chunky mythical figure that shows up around the end of the year.
Okay.
And
stop it there.
I compared mock drafts to that. Kelly is up next on a new stadium. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hello. I just think that if the Titans are wanting to do the stadium, they should pretty much pay for it all. We've got too many problems in Nashville, potholes, homelessness, all these other problems.
Let me stop you right there, Kelly. Kelly, let me stop you. They're not going to do it.
Then tell them to let the door hit them on the way out. As a taxpayer, they're not. My life isn't involved around the Titans. It involves my family and things, everyday life, not the Titans.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate your call. But the NFL has no problem in telling historic cities bye.
Mm-hmm.
They have no problem with that. They just did it to Oakland. They just absolutely screwed St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just had to pay like $1 billion to St. Louis because of how bad they screwed them.
Yeah.
So, like, this idea of, like, well, I don't think we should have to pay at all for the Titans. I mean, the governor's already proposed $500 million. And as we've said, the state of New York's doing $600 million for their stadium. I mean, like, the proposal for $500 million, the Titans are looking at that like, you got a little bit more? You got a little bit more? Get a little bit more up in here. Do your thing. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So Will Smith absolutely smacked the crap out of Chris Rock. And unlike other radio shows that I think, like, for sports radio hosts, they love to have this, like, feeling about themselves where it's like, we're better than, like, we're better than just sports. We can talk about whatever. We do not do that around here.
We are not E-News.
We are not interested in that. But I do want to talk about Chris Rock getting his face getting literally smacked the crap out of. I have a couple of thoughts. One of them involves a local sports team that is kind of tied in this. I'll explain that next as well. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Mainly clear to partly cloudy skies heading into the evening hours tonight. Temperatures drop to about 40 degrees. Warmer conditions on the way for Tuesday. Plenty of sunshine, highs in the mid-70s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
All the games are crazy in March, and so are Social Furniture's prices. Shop today at Social Furniture during their end of March sale. You'll find all sofas and sectionals for your home on sale now with same-day delivery. Social Furniture's end of March sale going on now. Enjoy your new sofas and sectionals now with no waiting and same-day delivery. Visit Social Furniture today in West Nashville at 5412 Charlotte Avenue. Forget the big box store. Support local. Support social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a lounge singer to be their office receptionist.
Hello, this is Mickey Marquis, and you've reached the office of Doug & Associates. Thank you very much. Catch me Tuesday nights at the Hotel Johnson. Hello?
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Doug & Associates, this is Mickey Marquis. Hello?
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Avoid biking in the rain and never touch another person's bike.
Hey guys, look at these bikes. So shiny. Whoops. I'm gonna leave a note. Oh gosh, there's more.
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.
Where are those receipts? Tax day is nearly here, and Chanel is stressing. Why do I always wait to the last minute? Her small business needs a bookkeeper to crunch some big numbers.
All these spreadsheets make my head spin. None of this adds up.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Allstate, where you can save just by being you. DriveWise in the Allstate mobile app gives you personalized driving feedback, and by adding it to your policy, you can save for driving safe just by being yourself. Allstate. Here, better protection costs a whole lot less. You're in good hands with Allstate. Click, call, or visit allstate.com to save today.
Not available in every state. Savings based on DriveWise and other safe driving discounts. Savings vary. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Machine journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the out of me.
Dude, that was
insane.
So let me say this, which is funny because somebody tweeted out something over the weekend about the Oscars and the Oscars dying or whatever, and I was like, I'm 32 and I have never cared about the Oscars.
Oh, I love the Oscars.
Oh, I could not give two poops
It's my
about any of
favorite
those.
award show.
I do not care about the Oscars. I do not care about the Emmys. I do not care about the Tonys. I do not care.
Well, the Emmys and the Tonys aren't the fun ones.
I
It's
do
the
not
Grammys,
care
it's
about
the
Golden
Oscars.
Globes. I definitely do not care about the Grammys.
I
do not care about the Music Video Awards. The music
Video Awards.
I don't care about that. I don't care about the Nickelodeon Awards.
Well,
I really
okay.
don't care. Like, I enjoy going to the CMA Awards, but I don't even really care about that.
Oh, I love award season.
I could not care less. So I've never cared about the Oscars. So okay, I don't watch any of the movies that they talk about.
Yeah, this year was the first year that I hadn't heard of or seen any of those movies.
So, and then also, like the King Richard movie about Venus and Serena Williams,
Mm-hmm.
like when that movie came out, somebody was talking about how they were like going to see that movie, and I was like, who wants to watch a movie about Venus and Serena's dad?
Like, I'll watch a movie about Venus and Serena. I don't
mean,
care about their dad.
I probably won't watch that either, but I'm definitely not watching it about dad. Like, I'm not watching a Tom Brady Sr. movie.
Yes, you would.
No.
Yes, don't even lie.
So anywho, so that happened, and Twitter went bananas about it, and so, like, now I had to tune in, and I watched the Will Smith speech, and it was, here's my biggest takeaway from this. This is what I want to address today. I don't want to talk about why Will Smith did it. I don't care. I don't want to talk about was it fair, foul, whatever. I don't, should he press charges? Should he not? I mean, definitely Will Smith broke the law on television. But here's my thing. Like, when it comes to, let's use Tannehill as the example. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who, like, when we come up with these narratives, people come up with these narratives about Tannehill, and then we blatantly disprove them. Right? Like the idea of, well, Tannehill only was bad last year and threw interceptions because everybody was hurt. Except the playoff game when everybody was healthy. Or, well, what's he supposed to do without his receivers? Derrick Henry got hurt. Well, that's why he threw all those interceptions after Derrick Henry. He was throwing interceptions when Derrick Henry was healthy. Like that, so those don't add up.
Right.
But people are going to believe whatever they want to believe. And there's people out there that believe that wasn't real last night. And that was real.
There are a lot of people that say, the Oscars just need more buzz about them.
And I'll say this, that's true.
Yeah.
And if there is anybody out there that could fake something that well, it'd be two actors. It would be the best actor.
But let's not call Chris Rock like some sort of Academy Award winning, elite actor.
Chris Rock's been in a lot of movies.
That doesn't mean he's a good actor.
But he's been in a lot of movies.
He's a comedian.
But if he was bad at movies, they wouldn't put him in more movies.
Have you ever seen, like, Grown Ups? That's not winning Academy Awards.
Dude, have you seen Down to Earth? That's a great movie.
I haven't, actually.
It's a great movie.
I'll put that on my list.
But anywho, I say this because that was real. And, like, yesterday, the amount of people whose opinions, like, I kind of value, like, that I don't think are dumb.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, yeah, it's fake. I'm like, no, it is not fake. That is 100% real. The reaction made it so obvious. The sound of the smack, the pictures during the breaks. Nicole Kidman, like, freaking just couldn't believe it.
Lupita Nyong'o, did you see the pictures of her? She was sitting at the table with Will Smith. She's an actress. And she was just sitting at the table with Will Smith, and the whole time her mouth just dropped. Like, her eyes were wide. She was like, wait, did that just happen?
Yeah, like Denzel Washington, like, calming him down during the commercial break. So, one, that thing was totally real. Two, they talked for a second about the Predators here. So they had a tweet today, and it was a picture of Will Smith smacking Chris Rock.
Quality memes out of that photo.
And it said on Chris Rock, who's getting smacked across the face, it said, quote, "You protected Tanner Jeannot?" And then Will Smith, it had Tanner Jeannot's stats. And when I saw that, I essentially felt subtweeted. Like, I felt like that was really directed towards me.
At me next time.
Right?
I don't know. Because I feel like when that happened, you weren't alone.
But I was the loudest.
You're always the loudest.
But I was the one who had the general manager say to me, I know more than you in a press conference.
But that wasn't about this.
It was about that.
Was it?
Yeah, it was about Jeannot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like, why did you not protect
I mean,
Duncan?
I remember Adam Vinkin tweeting out that it was a puzzling move by the Predators.
Everybody thought it was puzzling. But, I mean, I was the one who really. It's
You were
like,
loud.
There's a lot of people in Nashville that, if you were to just ask somebody who, like, follows the Nashville sports media, who doesn't like Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback?
You.
Right. It's like Family Feud. Like, bing, number
You're
one
the
answer.
top answer.
Yeah. And so I kind of felt like that was, like, towards me. And I saw that, and I was like, well played, Predators. Like.
Touche. It was funny.
They took it down?
Yeah.
Why?
I think the higher-ups, the powers that be within the Predators didn't like that. Like, it was almost like a shot at Tanner Jeannot.
I think it was more like a shot at the fans that were.
It was almost acknowledging the fact that people didn't think that Tanner Jeannot was worth protecting. And coming from the team, even though there were a lot of people that thought that, coming from the team, it's not a good look.
I don't disagree with that. Like, I understand that element of it.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, bringing up the fact, like, you know, it's like, you don't want to walk around the hallways every day and say, hey, Tom, remember the fact that T. Martin and Spurgeon Wynn were drafted ahead of you? Like, you don't need to do that every day.
Yeah. But I think you calling them out, I don't think that was the reason why
I
they
haven't.
deleted it.
I just want everybody over there to know that I had no problem with that.
I don't think they're worried about that.
I don't know. I felt like it was about me, and you thought it was about me earlier today.
No,
And
I
so-
didn't.
Yeah, when I was like, all this stuff, like maybe I just have a big head, or maybe I just think this is all about me. And you were like, a lot of the times it's about you.
I said a lot of times it's about you, but I didn't mean that this one was about you.
This one felt like it.
I mean, the shot from Jim Wyatt, that was about
like
you.
that, like named.
He literally said you.
Like that literally was like going.
And there was
through,
another one.
like 3 weeks of radio programming that we've
That
had
was
to
about
like
you.
lay out what we said.
That was about you.
That.
But I mean, I don't like.
There's a lot of. I believe that there's a lot of subtweeting or saying without saying that has to do with some of the things that we say. Like, I think that there's
probably so.
I think, like, remember
fine.
Robinson's comments to Ben Arthur at the Senior Bowl about, I don't know how many times I have to say Tannehill's going to be the quarterback.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, like, that's about us.
Uh-huh.
Like, that one was.
That was a shot.
I had no problem, though, I have no problem with the Tanner Jeannot thing. The truth is I was wrong about that. What I do wonder, though, is, and again, Sissons has a role on this team, and that line's playing well. Would Seattle have taken Jeannot over Sissons? It's easy to say right now they would have. At that point, Colton Sissons was a much more established, on a much more friendly contract than Tanner Jeannot is going to be. And Tanner Jeannot had played 11 games, I think, in the NHL at that point. So would they have done that? I don't know. But, I mean, the one thing, I'll give the Predators credit. They spent years not valuing Jeannot, like not having him, like they, weren't elevating him, and they weren't ever talking about him. And boy, they loved telling us about Tolvanen and Fabro, and then there was like Carrier and Jeannot. They didn't really care much about, just like Freddie Gaudreau. And all of a sudden, like they were, just hung over the moon about Tanner Jeannot. And I wonder if it was Hines. Like, I wonder if Hines, once he finally got around and went to David, was like, we got to keep this guy. Like, this guy is, and I'll say this, Jeannot is, he brings an element to this team. Like, he really doesn't have the talent to be doing what he's doing, so I get a little nervous about that.
What do you mean by that?
Like, he's not going to score 20 goals every year.
How do you know?
Because he's not that good. But what the element that he brings to this team, it's like Arvidsson. Like, everybody did that with me with Arvidsson. Like, he's not going to score 30 goals every year. What do you mean, Jared? He scored 30 goals last year. And then, like, you see that over time, like, he's not an elite player. But he does, I think, like, bring an element to that team, like the grittiness and the toughness, and that I do think they need. Now, I don't think that they need that for the next 10 years. But, I mean, I don't think they're going to get that from him for the next 10 years.
They need that for the next 10 years.
These guys get older, and then they stop becoming, you know the line, from a crusher to a rusher to an usher. Like, you end up doing that. But they were right about that one. That one I'll give them credit on. Women's basketball tonight. I am pumped. Louisville is playing in the Elite Eight. If we win, we're going to the Final Four. I will be in Minneapolis this weekend. If we win, we will probably not beat South Carolina, but that's okay because South Carolina is pretty good. We're playing Michigan, who we crushed earlier this year. Couple of thoughts. First off, To all the Lady Vol fans out there that told me that hiring Kelly Harper was just the best thing that ever happened to the Lady Vols, ha, 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 we beat them.
Peace and peace, Lady Vols.
Secondly, the competitiveness of the women's game is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And they're going to look at it if we win tonight, and if Connecticut, who's a 2 seed, wins, or even if NC State wins, and it'll be 4 1 seeds or 3 1s and a 2, and they'll be like, oh, that's not. But I'm telling you, like, women's basketball is more fun to watch, I think, than it has ever been. The players are better than they've ever been. So I'm pumped tonight. Doubleheader on ESPN. Go bet the women's games because it'll be fun. Put all your money on Louisville. Preds Insiders is next.